Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Scratch Nose Bandit. My dog decided to attack me during our play fight, and with one swoop of a paw, I end up look like I've been attacked by a little mini Freddy Krueger, but it's all good in the hood. Today, I am joined by a brother from another mother, but from this side of the Atlantic, Brad Wharton. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. Scout's honour.
I thought the first thing that you was going to start with is the infamous, the notorious wallpaper.
No, I've been there. I'm not one to rehash old material, but I've got an interesting background here, as you can see. That's my frog tank. So there's it's in the distance, but there's.
He's looking muggy. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, no, the thing is, it's there's baby ones in there, so it's only supposed to be half full for a while. There's about 80 tadpoles in there at the moment, and there's a little tank next to it that's got 3 fully grown frogs.
We've got Master Splinter in the house.
I know. It literally, like 6 months, I'm going to teach them ninjutsu. I'm going to take over the world.
They'll be fighting at Cage Warriors in no time.
They will, yeah. But yeah, better than inside-outside wallpaper, I think.
Well, oh, bro, I feel like I should just rip my wallpaper down to actually brick wall.
That would be a great episode of this podcast, just like decorating, just
like hands on me,
just with a wall steamer, just taking layers of it off. That'd be fantastic.
Oh my goodness! All I know is it's just a part of me. I wish that I could do it because I've always got this. I don't know if you've ever seen a program called Californication.
I've not. I've heard good things from.
It's a very good show, and there's one scene where you get to see where they used to live in one of those kind of open plan like apartments in New York, and all of it's like where you see the scaffolding on the inside, and you get to see all the. I was like, that looks so dope, and then I think to myself like, but I'm not an artist living in New York.
Yeah,
I have to have a house.
It's a lot of effort as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I can't really, validate the point of having it not wallpapered or not painted. So
I think every room in my house has white walls, and I just don't care, to be honest.
Oh, man, I'm just one of those guys. One question that I've got to ask you from the start, because I've been seeing it, and I'm sure you have too, for absolutely months on end. Will we actually finally see Paddy versus Brendan? Will we ever see it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to see that fight. I would love it. And who wouldn't? It's if you're a fan of especially the UK scene, but if you're just a fan of good fights in general, I think nobody can argue that it'd be a fantastic scrap. Will it happen? I don't know. Obviously, Brendan signed with ACB. I believe I don't think it's exclusive, but it's kind of semi-exclusive, and he's kind of fighting with ACB and Tanko, and they got the same matchmaker, and there's a lot of backstage links with those guys. And he's getting a good old pay packet from them. So why would he want to fight anywhere else, really? He's a prize fighter at the end of the day. So go where the big money fights are for Brendan. That's ACB. And obviously Paddy is signed to Cage Warriors exclusively. Graham Borland's his manager, who runs Cage Warriors. So there's very little incentive from a management side of things for Paddy to fight anywhere but Cage Warriors. Obviously I'm biased because I work for Cage Warriors as well, but at the same time I can be pragmatic and say, if you look at the biggest attended Cage Warriors event in the world, apart from Liverpool, and then look at the Liverpool one, there's a big difference in attendance there. We had, reports anywhere between 6,000 and 8,000 in Liverpool last time, and for most of the shows it's maybe 2,000, 3,000 max.
Yeah.
So there's very little incentive from Graham's point of view to have Paddy fight in a different show. And without going into specifics, Paddy's one of the best paid mixed martial artists in England right now, fighting on Cage Warriors. Him and Chris Fishgold have got fantastic deals, and there's probably, maybe ACB could match it. I don't know, but could they let Paddy fight in his home turf in the Echo Arena? Maybe not. Maybe there could be something done with like Brendan coming to Cage Warriors on a one-off deal. I don't know. Like obviously, like from a fan's point of view, everyone wants to see it, but at the same time, like both guys' managers have a responsibility as well. And I just think with Paddy coming off a loss and with Brendan coming off a loss, if you're managing either one of those guys, and they both, still saying they want to get to the UFC, do you immediately put them in a 50-50 fight again straight away? I mean, maybe Brendan more so than Paddy because he's a bit older and he's been around the block a few times. Paddy's 22 years old, man. Do you know what I mean? Does he need to go in against the killer, or does he need 1 or 2 fights to build him back up, have another crack at NAD, whether that's in October or maybe in February, March next year, and then go after someone like Brendan if Brendan's still in the UFC? I know it's a kind of a killjoy opinion, but if I'm either one of those guys' managers, unless some idiots put in 50 grand on the table for each of them, then I'm not going to put them in those fights.
I did hear as well, though, that apparently Paddy's next fight is the last one on his contract for Cage Warriors. I don't know if that's correct, but
it is, yeah.
I did read. So with that same thing said, if you're his manager, do you potentially, like you said, with Brendan's contract over ACBV and very lucrative, is it worth, obviously, when you've got an investment, obviously, with a company and a promotion itself, is it worth, that dual kind of complex of, do you keep him where you can pay him X amount, but then on the flip side, you could send him over to ACB and you can make bank as well. It's kind of one of those interesting ploys that's going under there.
Well, let's be completely honest. As long as Graham's Paddy's manager, he's not going to fight anywhere but Cage Warriors. That's just the way it is. It's not going to happen. I don't know what intensity fight management take from a guy's purse. I'm assuming maybe 20%.
Yeah.
I'm sure Graham's going to make more money having Paddy headline the Echo Arena in front of 8,000 people than he will getting 20% of his fight purse from ACB. And listen, Graham, for all the talk on the internet and everything about MMA managers, Graham's a pretty sound guy when it comes to looking after his fighters. He's always getting them good deals. He's always hooking them up with good sponsorship. I like to say, Paddy and Chris Fishgold, 2 of the best paid British fighters in MMA ever at the moment, in terms of guys who aren't signed with the UFC. So he's looking after Paddy. I like I say though, as long as Graham's his manager, I don't see him fighting in ACB. I could, maybe if the UFC doesn't come calling after a few more fights or a few more years, maybe he goes to Bellator or something like that. But I don't see him leaving Cage Warriors to fight anywhere else. I don't think Paddy needs it. Graham certainly doesn't need it, and it's a shame. But I think the best chance of that fight getting done is if Brendan somehow signs for Cage Warriors, whether it's a one-off or a couple of fights. I think, maybe if it's a couple of fights down the line and the UFC still aren't in a position to sign either guy, then it makes a lot more sense. We don't know what the UFC's plans are at the moment. They're certainly not hiring people from the UK left, right and centre. If they're only planning on doing one show a year in England or England, Ireland, Scotland, they don't really need to be signing a lot of guys. So if they've not come calling for Brendan and Paddy, the longer that happens, the more it makes sense for those guys to fight domestically, which is a shame, really, because years ago, it used to be that to get to the UFC, you had to smash a lot of top guys. Yeah. Look at Dan Hardy, having to go through an absolute murderer's row. He fought European guys, that amazing fight with Dan Thorpe back in the day, Matt Thorpe, back in the day. It's obviously not the same anymore. It almost behooves you to take a few easy fights, build that record up, and to give credit to both Brendan and Paddy. Neither of them have done that. They've both taken tough fights. Paddy's fought Nad, who was a really tough guy, very underrated. Fought Julian Erosa, fought loads of really tough guys on his way up, guys like Stephen Martin, another really underrated guy. And Brendan's record speaks for itself. Yeah. He's always fought hard bastards, man. I've had both Brendan and Paddy fight on FCC, which I helped run up in Bolton. That neither man was interested in fighting the bum. But Brendan, it's his own backyard, and he turned opponents down because he's like, no, people won't accept if I fight that guy. It's not the right fight for me. Always wanted the highest level guys. Paddy's the same. So there's a lot of fan talk about one guy being scared or the other guy running away. Absolute nonsense. It's just what makes sense for their careers right now, I think.
I was going to say, when you look at the way both of their careers have panned out so far, I think the unfortunate thing as well is for Brendan that he, with his very, very close loss in his last fight, I think it kind of takes a little bit of the sting away. But to the same extent, I don't think that either of them. I think for Paddy, for me personally, I think that Paddy can afford to lose one more time in this run to not lose hype. Whereas I think that if Brendan loses this next fight, I don't think that it's a fight that really benefits Paddy to step into, if I'm completely honest. Like, does it prove a lot to fans? Maybe. But then to the same extent, you're beating a guy who just lost. So people will just go, well, you're supposed to beat him.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird because, both guys have got such a big fan base.
Yeah.
It almost, from a promotional point of view, it almost doesn't matter who they fight because, when Paddy won his title, that was against a last-minute replacement opponent. And the Cage Warriors obviously got a great network. They managed to get a high-level guy in from Europe. But whenever Paddy fights, and even against Nad last time, I mean, people say that Nad's underrated and everything, but people in the know how good Nad is. But that was a Paddy fight kind of thing, and it's almost the same when Brendan fights as well. And Brendan's fighting an ACB where they've got the luxury of getting a lot of big names in, so maybe he's not, always like top of the marquee like Paddy is on Cage Warriors. But the fan base, I don't think they care who either guy fights, to be honest. I think whoever Brendan fights, whether he's fighting a Pat Healy or, whether he's fighting, Dave Lee on FCC, he's always going to be well supported. He's always going to have a ton of fans behind him. And it's the same for Paddy as well. So, like you say, it all comes down to, is it a good fight or a sensible fight for him to take at that time in their career? And I think for either guy at the moment, probably not. Like you say, they're both coming off losses. There was a lot more buzz around the chat about this fight last year when they were both coming off big wins. And I think, like you said, with Brendan especially, those, he's had a few, the Tom Duquesnoy one and the Pat Healy one. Don't have a massive problem with either result, to be honest. But I wouldn't have had a massive problem if Brendan had won either of me. That they were, 50-50 fights. I think maybe he had a slightly better shout in the Pat Healy one. But, it is what it is. If ACB, did the right thing and had the best judges there, then, he might not have these issues to complain about. Unfortunately, the top judges in Europe won't work that show because they've overridden their decisions with absolutely no merit whatsoever. So if you're fighting on ACB, unfortunately, that's a risk that you run.
Yeah.
Bit controversial there, sorry.
No, I was just trying to think. Kind of, the thing is when we talk about judges and we kind of look at certain people like referees and we kind of go, would it be better if we had more experience of fighters getting involved in that kind of aspect of it, or people that are more knowledgeable? Do you think that, the premise, as a lot of people thoughts, is that it should be a fighter that gets involved in it so they have a better experience? Or do you think that we're just going to see it develop anyway, as far as judging and refereeing is concerned, because we're going to just get people who have been watching MMA since, instead of like people who have kind of been boxing referees or boxing judges converting over because there's more work? Do you feel as if we're going to see that development of just people who are fans of the sport of MMA becoming judges because they're fans of MMA?
I think that anyone who wants to be a good judge or a good referee needs to have a very, very good base in practical martial arts experience. I don't think watching it's enough. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be, an incredible pro fighter with a massive record. If you look at Mark Goddard, I think, and Mark's had many, many fights over the years, but I think his pro records maybe 5-5. A very, very high level grappler, serious, legit black belt. He's got a fantastic practical base of combat sports and how it works and how the grappling works specifically, because obviously a lot of the days of MMA were guys who come from a striking background and didn't understand the practicalities. Judges, especially if you look to the American Athletic Commissions, the number of judges that came from a boxing background, for example, the technicalities of grappling. So I think you need that. And if you look at the top judges in the UK, guys like Ben Cartledge, Dave Leatherby, Mark Collette, all those guys, they've got a good base of grappling knowledge and a good base of MMA knowledge. I don't think any of those guys are competing in pro MMA, but I know they've all trained. Dave's just, the past few years has been getting well into his grappling. He runs a grappling show called Role Models now. But they've all got that practical knowledge, and I think that's absolutely essential. I've got probably about 16, 17 years of martial arts knowledge. I've judged some fights, but I wouldn't say that I was anywhere near a competent judge. I think as well as having any kind of practical knowledge, you've got to put the mileage in as a judge. You know, if you look at guys like Dave and Ben, who for probably over a decade now have been driving around and getting experience at every small show they can, shadow judging, eventually moving on to judging, building that knowledge base up, getting the experience in, and eventually being at a level where they're actually able to teach it to others. So it was like, yeah, I suppose the main point is you're a great fan of MMA and you can watch it for a long, long time, but unless you've got that practical experience, you're never going to be a truly effective judge. And that's not to say that just because someone's been a pro fighter, a great judge. In my experience, a lot of fighters actually lose a bit of objectivity, especially refereeing, because they've got that fighter's mentality of you let that guy fight until he's had the life snatched out of his body, which is wrong. That's not what a referee's there to do. A referee's there to protect the fighter rather than protect their ego. There's a lot to it, It's not to say that a great fighter will make a great judge or a bad fighter will make a bad judge. I think you've got to have a certain mindset about you, and certainly refereeing, because you're essentially in charge. And I think if you look at the top refs in this country, guys like Mark Goddard, Neil Hall, those guys, for example, they've got a huge presence, and it's nothing to do with how good they were in the cage. Yeah. It's just that it's a mindset and a mentality. If Mark Goddard's standing on the door of your local nightclub and he doesn't like what shoes you wear, you're not getting in. That's the end of it. And it's a conversation I've had with Mr. Goddard many times. Actually, he's not a fan of my dress sense, but he's not afraid to let you know, and that's exactly what it is. He's not afraid to let you know exactly what he thinks inside the cage. And I think from a referee's point of view, that's the most important thing. Obviously, the knowledge has to be there, the practical, applicable knowledge, but it's that persona. It's more than just I know MMA. It's I know how to deal with people.
Yeah,
I know how to point at a 260-pound guy and say stop and make him stop.
You're going to make every doorman in England now think that they can be an MMA referee now. Instead of them thinking,
a lot of doormen probably think they can, really, don't they?
I'm going to be a fighter, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be a referee instead. But with that same thing said, when you mentioned Matt, there was something I was going to bring up. We're obviously a little bit biased, obviously being from the United Kingdom, but how awesome is it seeing people like Mark Goddard, seeing people like Dan Hardy on Sky Sports being recognised in the build-up to the biggest fight in combat sports, arguably, in Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor?
Well, I'm a big believer in you get out of life what you put in, and there's no two guys in MMA that have put more in than guys like Mark and Dan Hardy. I remember watching Mark fight 15 years ago, like back on Cage Rage and stuff. Yeah. He's been around since year dot. In my opinion, he's the best referee in the world. Mixed martial arts. Maybe there's two other human beings in that conversation, but that's not bad, is it? Top three in the world. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that he's not one of the top three referees in the world. For my money, he's the best. He's dedicated his life to the sport and also teaching the next generation. And then you look at Dan Hardy. I think in terms of British mixed martial artists, he's been pretty much as high as you can go. He's fought George St. Pierre for the UFC title. He's now one of the best analysts in the world. These guys deserve it. They deserve the spots they're given. I think it's a good message to anyone out there. Whether you're working on the journalism side of things or the broadcasting side of things or the fighting side of things. If you're good at what you do and you put the hours in, the opportunities are there now. It wasn't always like that. You look at some of the guys back in the day who started off in the very early years of UK MMA, and quite a bit of perhaps deserved bitterness that they put the hours in and the opportunities weren't there. But now it's a different world, and guys like Dan and Mark are reaping the rewards, and fair play to them.
I was going to say, it's one of those things where you look at certain people and you kind of go, like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking about, there's a lot of people who I know, if there'd have been more access to, say, like wrestling classes, jiu-jitsu classes in the United Kingdom 15 years ago, they were into the striking kind of like kickboxing that were predominant in the European scene. Like boxing obviously is like bread and butter over here, but there's a lot of people I know always go, if there'd have been more classes 10 years on, I'd have loved to have had a go and stuff like that. And like you say, there's that swing of where now MMA is crossed over into the mainstream now. And, it's just a case of the timing. And, we're seeing a lot of people like, for instance, Dan Hardy, if, 10, 15 years ago, could he have, if MMA was that little bit more popular, it could have been a crossover star like we're seeing with people like, and I know Bisbin's been around for a long time, but now he's getting that push of being a crossover star. I'm seeing people like Bellew calling him out, saying that he'd love to have a go in cage against him. And I know he has a kickboxing background as well, but like he'd like to have a fight against Bisbin, whether it be in a ring or in a cage. And it's weird to see that, 10, 15 years ago that had never happened. And now we're moving along, and now we're starting to see that there's more opportunities for people in this time period.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important to sort of have that mindset that professional fighters are prize fighters. They're out really to obviously to compete, but they're out to compete for money. If they wanted to find out who the best guy is, they'd be competing in amateur wrestling and stuff for no money. But they're out there to earn a purse. Years, especially people from like a boxing background, didn't really consider mixed martial arts as being that much of a big deal, and there was no money there, which was correct. In Conor McGregor getting $100 million paycheck, and they're thinking, oh shit, hang on a second, there's money to be made here. And maybe it's not $100 million, but maybe I could get $5 million for fighting some other MMA guy on a UFC card, or this, that, and the other. I mean, come on, tell me Mayweather Promotions isn't going to be running a card where Mayweather boxing Paulie Malignaggi next year. There's going to be opportunities there, surely, for a few guys to get on.
I don't want to see that fucking fight, bro. Like,
I don't want to see it, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, the thing is, though,
it's like when China did pornography, man. No one wanted to see it, but it still fucking happened. I still downloaded it twice. Oh, my laptop died. Viruses for some reason.
Yeah, I know, right? I can't imagine why. Yeah, that's the thing. You are right, though. When it comes to the Paulie stuff, not the Chinese porn stuff, like, yeah. But with Paulie, I don't want to see it, because I think the only reason this fight works is because nobody gives Conor a chance, and every time that we've ever said Conor can't do something, he's done it. And this is the biggest obstacle by far out of anything he's ever been. Yeah. But again, this is like watching a film. We are actually seeing a film being played out. We are watching 5 years of somebody going from being on the dole, for people who don't know in the States, like it's being on benefits or whatever you guys call it over there. Welfare, that's the word I'm looking for. So it's like being on welfare and going from that 5-year period to potentially crossing over into a different sport and fighting against arguably the greatest boxer of all time, depending on who you talk to. So it's like a film, and like that's the only reason it's exciting. Like, do I want to see Conor fight Paulie? No, because I've seen a little bit of footage, and everything's in perspective, everything's been trimmed down, and I totally understand that. But there's moments in that where I'm looking and I'm like, oh, that's so awkward. You just see that piston of a left hand just smash him, and you're like, that can't be good for a 40-odd-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Who's not in his prime, who's not as good as Floyd is. It's just not good to watch.
I think it's whatever happens next for Conor is going to massively depend on how this fight goes. Like, and it's very unlikely, but if he goes to like a close or controversial decision with Mayweather, there'll definitely be a rematch, obviously, because it's too much money for either guy to turn down. Maybe they do it in Dublin or something, in Croke Park, something like that. The 80,000 people. If he gets banged out in the first round, he'll probably, if he fights again, go back to the UFC. If he beats Mayweather halfway through, I think then it's very unlikely that he goes back to the UFC, because he could earn 4, 5, 6 times as much fighting someone like Paulie Malignaggi in Dublin for his own promotion. So I think it's going to depend really on how he performs in that fight. And as much as all like conventional logic says, well, he's obviously going to lose a very, very one-sided fight no matter how it ends. It's just one of those bizarre situations where, you know, even for, you know, people like ourselves who obviously, you know, we're quite pragmatic about what's going to happen. The seed of doubt's still kind of at the back of your mind, isn't it? It's just a little bit.
My brain computes everything, and it goes decision Floyd. It just, that is, if I had to bet my house on it right now, including this wallpaper, I would 100% put Floyd winning by decision. But my gut instinct, if you told me to put money on it, I'm putting it on Conor. If you asked me if you asked me from your perspective, who should I put money on, I'm going to say Floyd. And exactly. I know it sounds so stupid.
No, that makes perfect sense because Conor's the bet you want to make. Conor's like anyone who's an MMA fan is like, well, yeah, we want Conor to win, don't we? Because it would just be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but we've seen him do crazy things. Like this isn't the first time that we, you know, I'd feel like an idiot. You know what, right? It's one of those things. This is the problem. If I put money, which I wouldn't, if I was to put money on Floyd and he won, I'd be like, I knew it. And it'd be
yeah.
But if I put money on Conor, I'll be one of the very few. And to turn around and be like, I fucking knew it, man.
I said it all along. Day one, I said this.
Well, the thing is, though, is I will say this, and not in the Brendan Schaub accent, but I did say since day one this fight was going to happen. That's one thing I did say. But
I completely agree, and I was with you all the way, man. There was as soon as you know it started getting talked about seriously, it's like, well, it's too much money to say no to.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Mayweather's not going to say no to it. McGregor's not going to say no. The UFC getting whatever. I think they're entitled to, what is it, 30% max or something?
I heard it was between 20 and 30%, so I don't know what the actual statistic is.
As a manager, if there is manager, they get 20, or they're entitled to up to 20. But apparently they're going in to be licensed as a secondary promoter, so not the main promoter. So obviously you've got the Ali Act in America, which prevents a manager being a promoter of the same fighter. Yeah. Which obviously, here in the UK, for example, would stop a situation like, so for example, Graham wouldn't be able to manage Paddy and promote him at Cage Warriors. That would be illegal. So in the US, that would be illegal. And then I guess there's good things and bad things, around that. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, either way, they're. I mean, if they're getting 20% or 30%, it's $20-30 million potentially. And I think even if McGregor does get knocked out in the first round, that doesn't damage his marketability for an MMA fight. If they bring him back in February for the Super Bowl weekend card, he's got knocked out in the first round by Mayweather, and they bring him back to fight. Who's I don't even know who the lightweight champion of the UFC is now.
No, well, he's still it. The potential fight that I'm
have they got an interim champ yet?
There's huge talks of Kevin Lee versus Tony.
Oh, right, yeah. For some reason I was thinking they had an interim champ. But yeah, so Tony Ferguson then, for example, I don't think McGregor losing the first round to Mayweather is going to impact how big of a draw a Tony Ferguson fight would be, because then you've got the whole thing of, well, Mayweather knocked him out in the first round. What can Tony Ferguson do?
Yeah, but that same thing said, it kind of takes away the allure of Conor, in my opinion. I still think that he'd be a big draw. He'd still smash, numbers and whatnot. But I just still think it'd cause major issues, because if you get knocked out by Floyd, who hasn't knocked anybody out since Ricky Hatton, and this was, and I mean this in all due respect, this was an athlete who was putting on 4 stone of weight in between fights and losing 4 stone of weight in between fights.
My kind of athlete.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all right if you're a heavyweight. If you're Brock Lesnar and you're cutting down from 100 pounds and you're getting down to like 250, 260, cool. Not so much when you're getting down to like that 9 stone mark. It's just not cricket.
Yeah, and smashing loads of beacon hookers as well.
Well, that
Ricky knew how to party, allegedly.
Come down and everything like that. So it is what it is, but god damn, it's just like, I don't know. I just think if he does get knocked out by Floyd, it'd be, put it this way, if Conor was to knock out Floyd, the Conor fans, as people like to, antagonize it as, they would be unbearable, yes. But if Conor was to get knocked out by Floyd, it'd be the Ronda Rousey thing all over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be one.
I think it would to an extent. But I think at the same time, Conor's kind of crossed that threshold that quite a few of the top earning MMA guys have, where people aren't necessarily just turning in to watch them win, they're tuning in to watch them lose as well.
Yeah.
Like if you look at all the top guys ever in the UFC, going back to Ken Shamrock, Tank Abbott, Tito Ortiz, and then I think ultimately maybe guys like Couture and Liddell as well.
Yeah.
That a lot of them had that, and Brock Lesnar, for example, a lot of them had that. Well, there's 200,000 people tuning in to watch me win, and 250,000 people tuning in to watch me lose.
Right.
They're all paying the same price for the pay-per-view at the end of the day, and I think there would be, maybe it wouldn't be as big as if he won, but I think that certainly, there's money to be made on Conor McGregor if he gets smashed, going back to the UFC and having one more fight. It all depends on whether he wants to do it. I mean, I was at the press tour thing they did in London, and the guy was like, "Listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to quadruple my net worth in 34 minutes of fighting." Yeah. And it's like, do you really need to fight again after that? He's got a young kid, he's got a beautiful woman at home that he's going to marry. His family's set for life. He's got enough money to rent every supercar that he wants for 6 months at a time on a rolling contract.
I just think
why bother?
I genuinely don't think we ever see him again. I think you'll see him in sports, like as far as like hanging around and doing this, that, and the other. But I just think you'll never see him again. I just don't. I don't think.
I think on a serious note as well, there's guys who he's very close to who've retired from combat sports due to brain injuries. And I'm not saying that's at the forefront of his mind, but he's got to sit down one day and look at his bank balance and say, you know what, I'm all right here. I've got nothing to prove. I'm the double champ in MMA. I've just fought the best boxer in the world. Do I need another 10, 50 million off the UFC to add to this?
My prediction with Mr. Cash right here is that I think that no matter what happens, I think Conor disappears off the planet as far as like fighting and competing. I think that he'll start his own promotion. I think he'll start his own one in Ireland. And I think that you're going to see major developments in European MMA due to Conor. And I genuinely believe that he's the kind of person that the European scenes kind of needed to kind of band together to kind of get something where you have something where, how can I put this? I don't mean this even just like in a disrespectful way, but I always feel that we've always kind of been overlooked. I think that, the only other promotion that's ever been really respected next to the UFC has been Pride. And that was the only time. And even then, it was still kind of like, you have to be a hardcore fan really to be interested.
But look at KSW, man. I mean, they've just done one of the biggest shows in the world a few months ago in Poland. I think if you talked about the biggest show in European MMA right now, KSW, there's not even an argument about it. They're absolutely huge. I think if McGregor were to fight in Dublin, he'd have a huge sellout show. Like, as a promoter, it's all about the guys on the card. And I just think, that Irish MMA boom that was there a few years ago has kind of dropped off now. If you look at,
I agree with you, but what would you say to the fact that he's got a lot of money? He's got a great upstart as far as the amount of money that he'd need to kind of entice some of the great prospects and somewhat big names, and he could put on one big card once every 3 months, not do once a month, just do one big card every 3 months, and he could get big names that are like semi-contracted to different promotions, and he could entice some of the up-and-comers that are coming through, not just in Ireland but in Europe in general, and he can build because he knows how he wants to promote things. And this is the difference between, this is the main thing that I've always found a problem with European MMA. I like the production of certain, like you say, KSW. The big production is awesome, but it's all going well having all the fireworks and the lights and everything like that. But until you are invested in promoting fighters, we don't really tend to gravitate towards anybody.
No, that's true. And it's like, if you look at the guys who've drawn big crowds over the years, And I've been fortunate to be involved with Cage Warriors, where we've had a few of them. We had Connor, and then to a slightly lesser extent, we had guys like Chris Fields and Carl Pendred, and Artem, who were all very big in Ireland and specifically Dublin back in that kind of like 2012, 2013 sort of time frame. But when those guys left Cage Warriors, all of a sudden, Cage Warriors couldn't really do shows in Dublin anymore because there weren't guys selling tickets. There wasn't that kind of cultural thing behind it. And if you look at KSW, they came up to England and they did nearly 10,000 tickets at Wembley. And I believe there was some number released somewhere where it was like 8,000 of those had gone out to basically Polish communities. So it was a huge cultural thing. They had Pudzianowski on there, who's like, our Eddie Hall kind of, it's that kind of special thing. I just think like, I've been around MMA for so long and I've seen so many shows get really big on the back of a couple of fighters, but it's always been a few individual fighters rather than, guys getting behind a promoter or a promotion. It's fighters who've got that rabid fan base. And I just think, even a promotion with McGregor as the figurehead, it's not going to generate that same kind of thing. Maybe he can sign James Gallagher and James Gallagher could be the figurehead of the promotion and they could get behind that. There's plenty of top guys coming up in Ireland at the moment.
Not just Ireland, we're talking about European though. This is the key thing. It might be held in Dublin, but he's got the attraction of being a star himself.
But then will people travel to Dublin from UK and Europe to watch?
From the UK. I definitely think from the UK. Europe is, it's a push. But the thing is though, is Dublin's not that difficult to get to. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like holding a promotion in London, holding a promotion in I'm trying to think of like Paris if it was legal in France, obviously. But again, this is a thing where we've seen a lot of people that have come from combat sports background in France recently, and they're doing very well. They've even crossed over into the main stage now, and hacking into that a little bit more and getting more of these young talents before they end up going over there and potentially saying, well, we can offer you big money here. If we can build, that's this thing.
I get the point, but I've promoted shows with Brendan Loughnane and Paddy Pimblett and Tim Wilde and Martin Delaney and struggled to sell 2,500 tickets.
Yeah,
it's depressing, man. When you're on that side of it, and like at FCC, we have one of the sort of bigger crowds in UK MMA. Like through the door, we'll usually get anywhere. Like the worst sort of shows we've ever had have been like 1,500. We did 4,000 for one show, which is nuts. Because that room was far too small for 4,000 people. We had one guy sell 600 tickets on his own, which was absolutely insane. We've never done anything that big again. But there's still that kind of pack mentality. So when we had Paddy Pimblett headlining against two like top 15, top 10 ranked European guys, everyone had left, and there was like maybe 1,000 people left in there because people come to watch their mate and then they bail.
See, that's the thing. I understand where you're coming from because I used to put on live band nights, like live music events, and we 100 to 200 to 300 people in. The problem was though is you'd get 200 to 300 people in, but you'd have 50, 100.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it'd go down to 100, and then it'd be a new 50, it'd be a new 100 that'd come through. I agree with you. I know I'm not saying it'll be an easy sell. I just think that star power always lends itself. If Conor was going to be at every one of those events once every 3 months, and you're going to have Conor be there, and Conor's not stupid. He could do additional tickets. If you spend an extra 50, 60, 100 pounds, he'll sign an autograph for you, and he's only going to do it for 1 hour. And, people will come in the droves to see, especially if he beats Floyd. This is the additional thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If he beats Floyd as well, you're going to get a whole lot more. Even if he's just one of the biggest sports stars and he just gives like a good showing of himself and it goes to decision like we expected to do Floyd, I still think, there's always going to be that money to charge people to see him. And I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into maybe the star power that possesses, pardon me. But it's going to be one of those interesting questions to be asked afterwards, because I think to myself, what else can he do? Like, what else will he want to do after this? Like, if he's not going to fight, what does he do next?
Yeah, I mean, he's never struck me as a guy who's going to be happy sitting at home getting fat. You know, he's always going to be doing something. You know, he's always going to be trying to make money somehow, and he's got obviously got a good team behind him as far as the promotional side of thing goes. So I'm sure he's going to do. I'm sure he's going to do something. I think McGregor Promotions is a foregone conclusion, as you say. How successful it'll be, I mean, you know, McGregor Promotions' first show, St. Paddy's Day next year, him versus Malignaggi. It's a gold mine, man. And he can have all his pals fighting on the undercard, MMA versus boxing. No one gives a fuck. It'll be an absolute circus, and they'll all walk away with big fat wallets.
It'll be the wild, wild west that we all loved.
Exactly. And it's that thing, like, do you know what I mean? If you ask me as an MMA fan, I've always loved boxing. I was a fan of boxing obviously before MMA, because it didn't really exist before boxing did. But, you know, if you ask me as an MMA fan, like, oh, would you rather watch him fight Floyd or fight Aldo again, or fight, you know, I'll probably take the MMA fight. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm more interested in that. But at the same time, it's like, the guy's going to make so much money, and he deserves it, man. He's earned that right. Let him make his money.
I think that for me, there's only one fight that, as a fan, that I really want to see him have, and that genuinely is him v Tony Ferguson. I think, and this is just my honest predictions, if I was to, you know, the only fights that I think are difficult for him is, I think, the Nate one at 55, because obviously you've got more leaner, more driven, and more athletic Nate in that fight. So I think it poses more. I also think that we get to see, you know, Conor is Goldilocks weight, and, you know, how does each one fare then? Because when we last saw Nate at 155, he looked amazing against Michael Johnson. I think he likes. I genuinely, I've had so many people look at me sideways when I say this, and I'm waiting for it, anticipating it. But I think he lights Khabib up like a Christmas tree.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think he starts.
Khabib gets hit way too easily.
Exactly.
Michael Johnson was clipping Khabib all over the place.
Exactly.
And he's not going to take any of them left hands. Here's one for you then. Joyce St. Pierre at 163.
No.
Yeah, why not?
I don't even want to see Bisping versus GSP. I don't. The only reason, in a sense, that I want that fight is so that Bisping can kind of walk away with a boatload of money, and that's it. Genuinely, like, that fight gives me an innie. It does nothing for me. It does absolutely nothing for me. It gives me an innie, and I look at that fight and I just go, well, if I'm being honest, if I look at that fight from a technical standpoint, I go, well, I think Bisping just smashes him to pieces. I really do. I think he's been out for too long. I think he got beat up by Hendricks in his last fight, which I thought that he lost.
Yeah, same.
I don't know. I just go, fuck, man. I think GSP just gets fucking smashed by this big fucking Englishman. I just don't see it playing out well for him, because...
Yeah. I mean, what's Bisping best at? You know, staying off his back and getting back up off his feet.
Exactly.
And just and keeping on digging for 5 rounds.
And you're talking about Bisping, who's a naturally bigger guy. Like, I know the GSP's apparently got a nutritionist in to kind of to keep him up to like 185, to get him up to like 200 when he goes into the cage and stuff. But genuinely, he had the worst dad bod I think I've ever seen. That was it. Hayabusa, the
yeah.
For that, the bro, come on, like, what we talking about?
The funny thing is, can you imagine having this conversation with me like 4 years ago and saying, "Oh yeah, Bisping had smashed GSP"? You'd be laughed out of the room, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%. This is the problem that I think that a lot of people don't understand, though. I think that people have blinkers on to certain fighters, and I'm guilty just as much as anybody, because I'm defending Conor when it comes to people who come up to me. I have people at my work coming up to me because I'm the MMA guy, and it's like, he's going to get smashed by Floyd, innit? I'm like, no, he's not going to get smashed. Like, it just sounds so stupid to me that to throw away that somebody who's been taking punches for the best part of half of their life is going to turn around and all of a sudden they're going to go against a fighter who's not fought in X amount of years and has got brittle hands. Is just going to smash them to pieces like the Wanderlei Silva. Like, I just can't see it. But going back to what you're saying, though, yeah, I agree with you. It was crazy if you said 4 years ago, you know, Conor's pardon me. Bisping's going to fight GSP, and Bisping, in my opinion, is going to smash him to pieces. It is crazy to say out loud.
I've just had a message from Eddie asking you to check your DMs.
Oh shit! Eddie's trying to slide up in them DMs.
Slide up in them DMs.
Slide, son. One thing I will say though is I'm going to ask the tough question here. Who do you think, honestly? Oh my god! Well. Fuck's sake, Eddie just said that my wallpaper is overrated and Paddy needs a haircut badly.
That's a hot take. That's 2 hot takes.
Jesus Christ. But I want you to think about, who would you say, out of all the people that's been hyped, as far as like GSP and even just more recent years, a few other people, who would you say is one of those people that you just kind of look and go, maybe they weren't as good as what we thought? Because when I look at GSP now, I go, well, people are booing Tyron Woodley for winning, but nobody was booing GSP when he was edgy.
Oh, I don't know, man. There was a lot of hate for GSP back in the day.
I heard everybody said to me that he was the greatest mixed martial artist in the world. So I was just like,
well, that might be true as well. Like, I mean, there's the whole combat side of it, and there's the entertainment side of it. I think there was a time when there was probably no one on the UFC roster, between lightweight and middleweight that was going to beat him. But he certainly wasn't entertaining. He certainly wasn't appealing to watch from a fan's point of view. I mean, I'm pretty much as much of a combat sports connoisseur as it gets, and I didn't enjoy his fight versus Dan Hardy or his fight versus Thiago Alves. It was just takedown, pass guard, rinse, repeat. Certainly not entertaining. As far as like an overhyped guy, maybe Eric Silva. Eric Silva a few years ago.
Anderson Silva. Then I was like, what the?
Yeah, what a bum! That guy beating up dudes on Cage Rage. Fucking hell!
Look at everyone pissed off and shit. What's up with you, bro?
Man, you know what? I drove home the whole way. I'm driving home listening to your shit. It's like you have Connor's nuts hugged up right here. You're just like, oh, I love you, Connor. I love you so much. You're gonna knock out Mayweather.
Who's the one tuning in to the open workout when we were on last?
Bruh, we were talking about it. I had to do my duty.
Who tuned it on? Who turned it on?
I tuned right back out.
Bro, I didn't even have it on. You turned it on. You were talking about it, so it's all good, bro.
I'm gonna get my ukulele out in a minute and do the Conor McGregor song.
Dude, I laughed my ass off on that shit. And someone got mad at me for that. They were like, "Come on, that was a heartfelt song." I'm like, "What the fuck are you? What the fuck?" Look, man, I like entertainment, but I was laughing at it. But hey, someone wrote a song about Conor McGregor.
I haven't even heard it yet. I still haven't.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I haven't heard it yet.
He's paid for the dude like 2 tickets and flights and hotels, tickets to the fight and everything, man. Like,
yeah, hey, just wait for that.
It used to be a kiss ass.
Dude, just wait for the slew, just like the hordes to make all the Conor McGregor songs, trying to get tickets to this fight. I'm telling you, it's just coming.
Yeah, I've got the dubstep remix queued up. I can't
wait. Oh shit! What up, boys?
I'm good, man. Who do you say, Eddie, then? Who would you say is one of those guys that over the past few years or even before that was like, in a sense, overhyped compared to how you look from them in hindsight now?
Fuck, you could say Johnny Hendricks. Ooh. Kind of like a dark horse.
Are we going to say like Rafael dos Anjos then, Jose Aldo? Are we talking?
No. Let's talk about RDA real quick. I was watching, I forgot what I was watching. I was watching someone else's show, and they said that RDA is arguably like the second best lightweight of all time. Bro. And I couldn't understand the argument, so I like tuned the fuck out. But have you guys ever heard that shit?
I don't even know.
No, never.
It's incredible. Like I was laughing and literally I was like tweeting them like, hey, can you guys explain what the fuck you're talking about? And they were like, and they got my tweet and they were like, oh well, he was just very dominant like physically, and I was like, I'm out. You guys are idiots.
Didn't he only have 2 title defenses, if I'm correct?
Not only that, he got fucking tuned up by the guy that fucking Connor Super Saiyan the shit out of at fucking New York. What do you expect? I know MMA math, but goddamn, like fucking hell, dude. Anyway.
Well, literally, as soon as they brought the USADA testing in, he just fucking melted, didn't he?
Shit.
Disappeared. Yeah.
Hey, how many Brazilians? And look, y'all can get mad if you want to, but how many Brazilians fucking deflated after that shit?
100%, 100%.
The best was Rogan's audio at 194 getting leaked. We was talking about how Jose Aldo looks soft.
Yeah,
That shit was funny. I was like, wow, way to tell him, Joe. Fuck yeah.
Here's a good shout then for most overhyped fighter of all time, Ken Shamrock.
100%. Nailed on.
Absolute bullshit. He was like, I mean, first of all, you know, he lost to Hoist Gracie in decisive fashion in his first UFC. Never really fought a good fight again until Don Fry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, his Dan Severn fight. Okay, he beat Dan Severn. Fair enough. Second fight with Dan Severn, he was too scared to go anywhere near him because Dan started striking. And then, what's the next decent fight he had? Don Fry. Don Fry battered him. Tito battered him. That was it. That was his entire career.
I think it's the thing of like, because he went to WWE and it was like world's most dangerous man. I think that the WWE fans kind of went, oh, we'll watch him fight for real. He looks like a tough guy. And then he got his ass handed to him by Tio.
No, dude.
Well, yeah, a lot of his fights in Pancrase were, you know, essentially not real.
Yeah.
If you subscribe to that, which most people do. Yeah, apparently, you know, they were kind of semi-real, and there was a lot of thrown fights. So the Japanese guys would because they fought every month essentially. They would tour Japan like a pro wrestling organization, and you know they would kind of fight every month. And so like you know, Funaki would give Shamrock a win, and maybe Shamrock didn't know that he was getting given a win, but he would, you know, drop a heel hook to him or something and tap out, and then at the next show Shamrock would get his Funaki would get his win back for real. But obviously there was a lot of skullduggery going on there. But if you look at real fights, Ken Shamrock didn't fucking really beat anyone.
I've got a question for you. Do you I know Eddie's not majorly into like WWE and whatnot, but did you used to watch WWE as a kid? Like back in the
of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when I was a kid, yeah.
Are you familiar with Haku? Neither of you?
The name rings a bell. Hang on, Haku.
He was the Samoan guy with the big throw.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I went to the meet and greet of Ken Shamrock, and that, you know, we were talking and asking him questions and this, that, and the other, and everybody was asking, who is the one person, you know, that you just never wanted to fight? And then, you know, as soon as they asked him, everybody was shouting out names. Some dickhead shouted Tito, another person shouted out Brock, you know, all the kind of stereotypical names. And every time I ever hear anybody talk who's from wrestling or anybody who's been in MMA and crossed over, they always turn around and say Haku, because Haku was apparently the most scariest and most badass man that ever walked the planet. There's mythological stories of him ripping out people's eyeballs and putting it in glasses and stuff like that. But I don't know if they're true or not. All I know is he's hard as hell.
Who cares? There was a whole story. I'm sure I read it in Mick Foley's book years ago of Ken Shamrock getting his ass handed to him by one of the Nasty Boys, which I just think is hilarious because those guys are like two fucking fat, out of shape dickheads, and apparently one of them absolutely murked him.
Well, Brock Lesnar apparently got ransacked by Mr. Perfect, didn't he?
Well,
what?
Mr. Perfect.
Wait, time out. What?
You know Mr. Perfect back in the day?
Yeah, I know who that is. Yeah.
And apparently he was supposed to have thrown around Brock at one point.
No.
On a plane.
Yeah.
On a plane, no less.
Yeah, that's the one.
On a plane.
I think we could probably put that down to the amount of alcohol, drugs, and plane that they were on at the time.
Yeah, but still, you're talking about
it wasn't like a legit NCAA mat wrestling contest, was it?
Yeah, but you're talking about Brock Lesnar as a legitimate wrestling background, and when he was in WWE in the first ever stint, that guy was one of the most juiced up things I've ever seen in my entire life. That Here Comes the Pain video game that they had on the PS2.
Oh yeah,
that was legit. Yeah,
there. Nah. Not playing it. There's no way I'd be able to. No, I'm surprised anybody was able to control him.
No, dude, that's gonna be at the. You would have to fucking neck crack that son of a bitch. You can't choke him. There's no neck there. He probably just flexes. Even if you got his neck, he probably just flex and fucking hold you off that way. Son of a just son of a bitch. Like, what the fuck? Dude, I did not know that he gets thrown around. All right,
well, thrown around by Mr. Perfect, yeah.
Right, yeah. Because I remember that dude. I was like, whoa, okay, hey, fuck it. But goddamn. What do you guys overhype? What about, it's kind of like a pair, Paige Van Zandt and Sage Northcutt is overhyped as fuck.
I think Sage Northcutt's been lucky though, because, you know, the people who he's lost to, one of them round about the same level, and when a striker fights a grappler in Mcgregor, the striker usually doesn't come off too well if they don't have great takedown defense. So that one, it kind of, you can give him a little leeway. And then he had that illness thing, so I kind of go meh. But Paige Van Zandt, she gets force-fed down our throats every damn week. And I just think that she's the most overhyped thing that there is. I think anybody she fights against who has a good overall game beats her.
I think, with both of those guys, let's be honest, they're both like quite conventionally good-looking people. If you go in from that American ideal of that tall, blonde, hot kind of thing, and I think people who were kind of in the know perhaps didn't rate them that much, and they were always more of a product of the UFC hype machine. But as we've seen many times, they've both been found out now. So you're only kidding yourself if you believe in your own hype.
What either one of you said CM Punk?
Wow,
that's overhyped,
bruh.
I'm just asking.
No, because I don't think anybody put money on CM Punk winning. I think if you was to find like the biggest ever lopsided amount of money betted on one fighter, I genuinely think you would see that CM Punk probably had like his wife put $1 on him, and that's it.
Oh, she's fine as hell too. I saw her on that video. What was her wrestling name again?
AJ Lee.
AJ. Okay, there you go, AJ. She fine as hell.
How about
speaking of wives? Ash, you mentioned to me that we might be talking about Frank Mir going to Bellator.
Yeah.
So just on the off chance, I put Frank Mir into Google. And I've got Google Smart Search turned on.
Okay.
So I typed Frank Mir, and the first result is not like Frank Mir MMA or Frank Mir record. The first result is Frank Mir wife, and I can confirm it's definitely a link you should click on.
With all due respect, 100% should be clicked on.
Whoa, Frank, you did real well, sir. Yeah. Cheers, motherfucker. God damn. Good luck in Bellator. God damn. You know what? Hey.
Mrs. Mir. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Mrs. Mir, legend.
I'm quite surprised though, because I thought he was going to be competing over in Russia, because I thought that was going to be the segue with obviously him doing commentating.
No, because your boy Frank Mir knows some shit about Russia. All right, he's sitting there with a microphone about to call some shit while homeboy, however fucking say his name, Vladimir, whatever the hell, is getting a big fucking needle just jammed in his ass just right before the fight. He knows better than go over there and fight those motherfuckers. You don't want to die. You want to get paid.
Well, you can always fight Bigfoot Silver.
Oh, yeah. Bigfoot Silver's lost. Just forget about him, okay? At this point, he's like, there's like a parasite in his brain going, Bigfoot punch. That's over and over again. That's all it is. Fucking shit. Is there anyone you feel more bad for than Bigfoot Silver, though?
The fact that he's fighting Glory is ridiculous.
Who? What?
Oh, that's not a real thing, is it?
What? They're trying to make it happen. Rico Verhoeven, is it? If I remember.
Oh no!
Yeah. Against Bigfoot Silver?
Yeah, that's
Rico Verhoeven against Bigfoot.
Glory 46 Bigfoot. The links all come. But yeah,
that can't happen. Surely.
Can Bigfoot lift his legs anymore?
In a kickboxing match?
Apparently, yeah.
Motherfucker.
Like Glory 46, I believe it is. That it's in talks. It's not confirmed, but it was something that was going around the mill. I think.
I joking aside, that Rico Verhoeven versus Bigfoot should never happen in a striking match ever.
Considering Badr Hari had a bit of a trouble.
No, that should not happen.
I don't want to see. No, I don't want to see him play Street Fighter. I don't want to fucking see him fight. Fuck out of here with that shit. All right, leave Bigfoot Silver alone, goddammit. It's like everyone wants to kill this guy. You know what I mean? Like, fucking gets in the UFC, he's kicking everyone's ass. Okay, no more TRT. He's like, shit, I need it to live, but fucking see what happens, right? Fucking gets cut off to Russia. All the roids, all the TRT gets knocked the fuck out. Does anybody, I don't feel like worse for anybody but this guy. He's trying so hard. And every single time that he gets a fucking little step up, man, someone kicks him in the fucking face and knocks him right out. Fucking awful. God damn it, Bigfoot. God damn it. Get together.
Oh my god.
Fuck's sake. We've got tears.
Let's take a minute here.
Oh,
Anyway,
But yeah, that fight should not happen in any civilized society ever. Is that supposed to be in Holland or
I don't know where it'll be held. I just know that it'll be
nowhere with an athletic commission, obviously.
oh, hey, go to Mexico. They'll take that shit any day.
Fight in Russia. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I guess like if it's over in Russia or no, Glory have never done like Chechnya or anything, have they?
I'm not sure if I'm completely honest. The only place I've ever seen them do is obviously like they usually do Germany. They do Holland.
Have they done St. Petersburg? Maybe.
I'm gonna Google right now where that's planned.
Wait, do they do Russia?
Hold on.
They go to Russia, right?
I don't know. I don't think that they've done a card in.
Because even Vladimir Putin's like, "Fuck that fight." Nobody want to see that shit. God damn.
It's difficult to do a show in Russia without like the kind of Russian government backing.
Oh, dude, have you guys seen? Real quick, I don't know if you guys watch. You watch Netflix, Brad?
Yeah.
Dude, Icarus. You seen it?
Yes.
Holy shit! I was literally fucking around on Saturday after jiu-jitsu. I'm like on my couch, burnt the shit, obviously from a mat burns and shit, just tired as fuck. And I turn on Netflix, it's like Icarus. What the fuck is that? And I literally just hit X on it, and the whole idea was to put something else I could pass the fuck out. Hell no, dude. Fucking 2 hours of like, oh my god, dude.
Insane.
Amazing. What's his name? Brian Fogel, I think is the one that made that.
Yeah.
It might be in China, guys. Bruh, this is like, hold on, I'm gonna hit you both up in the DMs with the picture that I found as well.
All right.
Oh my god.
Ash, you gotta watch that documentary, dude. Did I tell you about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it on tonight after I've.
Dude, it's fun. It starts off like real chilled out, and all of a sudden it just boom. What the fuck just happened? You know what I mean, it gets fucking sick, and it's real. So it's like legit as fuck. Hold on, what you sent me?
This is the picture of the potential fight. If you actually,
and let's be honest, Bigfoot Silver's not looked like that for about 10 years, has he?
Yeah, and that picture is like Bigfoot Silva. It's like Verhoeven is trying to date Bigfoot Silva's like daughter, and they're about to fight for her honor. That's literally what that picture is. Like, fuck, it's awful. Oh, dude, no, stop trying to kill my boy, man. Goddamn.
This is the worst thing, though. Like, this is why we need an overall, in my opinion, one governing body that just says, right, if you're going to put in any shows, this is how it has to be everywhere. Like, none of this bullshit where it has to be one rule for one country, one rule for the other, because it's just stupid and idiotic, because things like this happen.
The thing is, though, like you know, governing bodies can be just as bad as they are good. Like I don't know if you guys remember this, but a few years ago, Cage Warriors were going to do a show in. Hang on, let me think. It was either Denmark or Sweden. I can't remember which. We'd done a show in Copenhagen already. It was Sweden. We did a show in Sweden, and the SMMAF, which is the IMMAF Swedish branch, had to approve all the fights. So we had to make an application to them for a promoter's license. All the staff had to be licensed, so they had to pay to get, literally, me as a commentator had to be licensed to go and commentate on one of their shows. All the officials obviously had to be licensed, which is fair enough. And basically, Cage Warriors said to them, look, how much is this going to cost? And they said, about £50,000, which is the same as the UFC paid to do their show over there. So we said, hang on a second. UFC did the show to like 15,000 people, and they had a crew of 200 people. We've got a crew of like 50, and we're doing an event to 2,000 people.
Yeah,
play the fucking game. So they I don't know what they settled on, but they eventually settled on an amount for the organization to sanction the show, which is ridiculous if you think about it. You have to pay a certain amount just to have your show. Well, that's legally sanctioned.
That's what New York's having problems with, isn't it? Because a lot of the smaller promotions can't do shows in New York because
they can't afford it.
They can't afford to even doing it because apparently the insurance for if anything was to go wrong with a fighter in New York is set at $1 million, I believe it is.
Per fighter.
Yeah, per fighter.
Fighter.
Yeah, you don't have to pay that, but that's your liability.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, we got past the first hurdle, and then you then have to go through getting all your fights licensed. So you submit your fight card, and the commission votes on every fight whether they're going to sanction it or not. So they basically refused to sanction every fight on our cards as a professional fight, apart from one. So we were like, okay, what's the issue? Let's have a look at these, and let's compare them to the fights that were on the UFC's card at that time. So we had guys with better professional records than some of the UFC fights that got sanctioned, and they were refused sanctioning. One fight got sanctioned as a professional fight, and one of the fighters in that fight was a guy called Martin Svensson, who fought on The Ultimate Fighter and then was on Cage Warriors. His manager was the head of the SMMAF, and that was the only fight that got sanctioned. Yeah. Wow. So we basically said to them, you can either stop this bullshit or we'll pull the fight, and we'll move it to we moved it to Jordan in 2 weeks, basically. And they basically doubled down, and they refused to sanction any of the fights, professional fights. So we, in the space of 2 weeks, we moved the entire show from Sweden to the Middle East. Still sold it out, 3,000 people in Jordan because they fucking love it over there. But it was like, it was so bad for the fighters because they were essentially being told that they weren't good enough to compete under professional rules. They were literally told they'd have to compete as amateurs in Sweden because they weren't good enough to compete. And the only difference was elbow strikes and 3-minute rounds versus 5-minute rounds and twisting locks on the legs. And obviously these guys have been, we had guys with 20 pro fights who've been competing under those rules, and they were told, oh, you can't do it. And the sweet revenge was obviously before every Cage Warriors event starts, we have a rules meeting with the referees, and we have a production meeting. So we tell the guys what's expected of them in terms of, you will be told what time you're fighting. You'll be given a 1 hour countdown, a 30-minute countdown, a 10-minute countdown, a 5-minute countdown. You'll be taken out to the cage. You'll be getting your gloves at this time. You'll be getting your hands wrapped at this time. And they get the whole spiel off Graham. And at the end of his regular speech that he normally does, he gave this huge speech about the SMMAF, not thinking that, you're good enough to fight under their rules. And obviously the guy who's the head of the SMMAF was Martin Spencer's manager. So he was stood in the room, and Graham just fucking stared a hole through the back of his head and gave this massive speech about, basically that guy over there thinks you're all cunts and can't fight on the proper rules. So everyone was like, fuck this guy.
So essentially it was the Dana White Ultimate Fighter speech.
Oh, it was, but it was 100% deserved, man. Yeah. I've never seen something so corrupt in my entire life. It was absolutely disgusting. And how you can stand there as the head of that organization and permit your fighters fight and nothing else on an entire Cage Warriors card. I mean, look, every promotion's got its good and bad points, but there's no one in the fucking world saying that Cage Warriors doesn't match fair fights.
But shouldn't he have known that he was gonna, his fighter was obviously gonna get lit up as far as everybody was gonna go, oh, so you're good enough then? Everybody's gonna know why his has got approved. So it's why would you even contemplate doing that? Because you're automatically gonna get found out that that's the reason.
Exactly. It was ridiculous, mate. It was absolutely insane. But I can't even begin to imagine what it cost Cage Warriors to move that event. I mean, they sent my ticket direct to me, and my ticket, even standard class, was a 700 quid return ticket to get to Jordan. And we were taking 75, 80 people over there. And that wasn't all just people from England. There was people from America, people from all over Europe, and then the hotel. It was a 6-star hotel in Jordan. Everyone gets food for the week. Everyone gets paid every day. It must have cost an absolute fucking fortune. But credit to Cage Warriors really for making it happen and taking a stand. I mean, I don't, to be honest, if Cage Warriors had fucking kowtowed to them that day and said, yeah, we'll make him fight under amateur rules, I don't think I would have gone over and done it, because that would have been fucking bullshit.
I don't think most of the fighters would have done it, to be fair, though.
No, they wouldn't.
Right.
I don't think so.
No.
What I was going to ask
at that point, you're not doing it for the money, really. You're trying to move up in the world, and the amateur fighting's not going to do it for you.
100%. And it's not then you're limited in what you can use as well. What I was going to ask you guys is, how do you guys feel about the big gap of obviously, I know we've got the fight, the boxing fight coming up and everything like that. But how do you guys feel as far as like having this big period of time in between like now and our last pay-per-view to the next pay-per-view, as far as like the UFC, like the big events? I know obviously we've got smaller promotions that are going to be still kind of in between, and there's stuff that you can watch. But do you feel it's better for the UFC to do these longer periods of time off?
I feel fucking amazing about it because I get to go outside and shit. Maybe I trained a little too hard last Saturday and this last Saturday and everything. I trained a little too hard. I fucked my leg up a little bit. Had the elevator. It was fine. My dog was chilling out with me and shit on the couch and shit. No fights. I survived. This weekend's gonna be awesome. I ain't doing shit. I'm doing nothing. All right. Now, in all honesty, I think we've had so many, every weekend's another show and another show and another show. For guys like us who constantly watch this, and for lack of a better term, cover it in one way, form, or fashion, you get burnt out a little bit as far as like the watered down fights, right? I mean, for example, the pacing alone on like Fox Sports 1 cards is awful. Just goddamn awful. I mean, and it's not like you could even if you put a percentage on it, maybe 40% of all the fights every single weekend are actually exciting. Per card, unless you're really lucky, you'll get one mostly exciting fight, right? That's why I prefer. I would love it if there was like one pay-per-view and like one fight night a month. And I know that's a lot of people are going, holy shit, why would you say that? Because I want to miss it. I want to be like, fuck, I can't wait for the next card. You know when was the last time I did that? I don't remember. Like legit, don't remember any of that. You know what I mean? There's fights where I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't wait for this fight. But I'm just like, shit, I haven't seen a fight in a while. I can't wait for this weekend's card. That's just what it is.
Yeah, when I like first started watching UFC, it was like there was like 4 events a year.
Yeah,
and it was good because it was like you get like maybe 4 UFCs a year, 5 UFCs a year, and then eventually, I don't know what time did Pride hit, like 97, 98. You get maybe 3 or 4 Pride events a year, and then I used to get like various like European shit on VHS and that. But there would be an anticipation. Like I remember, like really looking forward to a Pride event for like 2 months, and they would release like the main event like 2 months in advance, and then one more fight, and then like the 2 weeks leading up to the fight, you get like 10 fights announced. You'd be like, oh shit, this is amazing. And I would there was like pirate guys on eBay who would burn the DVDs off the American pay-per-view and put them on eBay the next day. Like and of course there was no social media then. There was no like Facebook didn't exist and Twitter didn't exist. Off Sherlock.com and not the results, and I'd be fucking like every day I'd be like waiting next to my letterbox, and eventually a fucking knockoff shit DVD that it printed cover will come through, and I'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then you go and watch like 9 fights, and it'd be like, obviously in Pride it was like maybe 5 shit fights and 4 great fights, but it'd be 4 really great fights. And then when you're watching UFC events, like like UFC kind of like pre-UFC 50, every fucking fight on the card was sick. You got like guys like Pedro Hizo on the undercard of the old, and it's like, wow, this is great. And we just don't have that anymore. Like, I don't mind watching low-level MMA. Like, I really enjoy, going to domestic events and watching amateur guys, and really big on the amateur scene. Like, FCC is one of the biggest amateur shows in the country. I love that kind of thing. But at the same time, you'd like to think that when you tune into the UFC, you're watching the best in the world, and the fact is, you're not anymore. It's just not true. The guys in the UFC at the bottom of the card are not the best guys in the world. There's guys in other promotions who are much better than the first 5 fights in the UFC. I mean, with all due respect, man, what's he doing in the UFC?
Yeah.
Absolute joke.
I think that's one of the problems.
As well. Valoria Bufando, the guy who beat him, should not be in the UFC. That guy's not a UFC level fighter.
Do you think that the Contender Series can help with that, though, in the sense of maybe using that as a platform to kind of whittle out the people who maybe shouldn't be in the UFC, and then obviously the ones that go out in a sense and earn it? As silly as it sounds, these people are earning their opportunity. They've already built up a reputation in the domestic scene and the local, regional, and whatnot, and then they're going to get the opportunity to compete against somebody else who's just as bad, who's just done the exact same thing, and then we can get these kind of guys, and then instead of the prelims being filled with, you know, like your Joe Schmo local guy who's fighting against whoever the next top guy is going to be, and they're going to run through them to kind of set them up, like fighting a Can, a Jobber, whatever you want to call them. Do you think this Contender Series can actually help with the development of prelims and fight nights?
I think it definitely could if people treat it like that. What I don't want to see is people saying, well, I'm going to even further avoid the challenge before I get to the night kind of level. You know, there's too many guys out there at the moment fighting, I don't want to say shit guys, but not fighting the best guys just to build that record up. So they look appealing to the UFC. But, you know, there's two ways it can go. You could go on the Dana White fight night guy, he's ready to take the next step up. Or you could be saying, well, actually, I've got a better chance of getting on the Dana White fight night if I've got a 5-0 record, so I'm not going to take any chances up to 5-0.
You're going to get found out though by somebody who is battle tested.
But you know, you're going to get found out now if you go into UFC and fight guys that are battle tested. But for the past 5-6 years, there's been I can only speak for guys that I know of in the UK, but there's been top level guys that have hit the UFC from the UK who I know for a fact have turned down all the best fights that were out there for them.
Yeah.
You know, there's guys who have been out there chatting on social media about no one's willing to fight me, but I know for a fact they've turned down contender after contender after contender, and they've turned down legit money for it as well. So it's not even they've got the excuse they're not getting paid.
Oh no, I just feel. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm a massive cynic.
no. It's in fairness, like in a way, I agree. I just feel as if the Contender Series could be used for, like I say, the people who are battle tested, people who have earned the records and earned the reputation and earned the kind of opportunity to get into the UFC. Then, if you can get past somebody else who's earned the stripes just like you have, then you can get to fight on a prelim, and then you can start building your career in the UFC. Because otherwise, if we're just throwing them against cans on the Dana White show, and you know, if the fighting cans in the domestic level, then what's the point? They're going to get found out by somebody who isn't like that. That was one of the kind of the things that I kind of liked with the tough champions.
Yeah.
Champion, but it was like, right, okay, you're all champions.
They're all legit, yeah. I think that's the good thing about the Dana White thing, to be fair, because I don't know a lot about all the guys on there, but the ones that I do know a bit about, they've not really had any bums on there. They've all been kind of legit guys. They've not had any shitbags on there. So anyone who's got a contract through that has earned it, really, in my eyes.
What do you think, Eddie?
Look, man, it's better than fucking tough.
Yeah,
I'm sick of tough, dude. I'm done with tough. Like straight up, I'm not gonna invest weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to. Here's what they want, right? So they put this reality show. They want you to see what this guy's really like in his house, and when he gets drunk, when he gets emotional, and when he misses his wife and his kids, he ain't got no pussy in 4 weeks. That kind of shit. That's what they want. They want you to relate and invest emotionally in a guy, right, or a lady, whoever's fighting, right? Here's the thing about it. Is that it's so MTV Real World Road Rules Challenge type of shit that it gets old. Anybody that watches that just recognize the shit off the top. You're like, really? This is the Kardashians, bro. That's what you're showing me. The Kardashians with a fight at the end of the show. So for me, what does Tuesday Night Contender Series do? Put legit guys and let them fight, and that's it. Whenever I tune in, like, look, we talked about this, like the last. I already lost kind of how many tough seasons. I've skipped the show and timed it to where I'll tune in right as a fight, right before the fight starts, or as the fight starts, I tune in. I watch the fight and I tune right the fuck back out. This last season was just like that for me. Every episode was tune in for the fight, tune right the fuck back out. I'm not trying to watch a reality TV show. I'm just not. There's too much of that shit on TV already. So Tuesday Night Contender Series, I was excited for it. Not just because Snoopcast was on there and I can get stoned out of my mind and laugh my ass off as Faber totally fumbles every rap lyric ever, and Snoop Dogg just laughs at him and makes up fucking vocab words for fighters, but it's good fights. I mean, I haven't seen any like shit fights at all, and they got like the first female fight coming tonight. I think. Jamie Colleen, right? She's fighting. Tiffany Masters. Yeah, that's a fight. So you're getting good shit. You're getting new stuff. If this is the way we're gonna go, they're almost like tryout fights, right? If you finish your opponent, you have a chance. You don't finish your opponent, get back in line. That's
exactly the thing, man. Like, I mean, to be honest, like, any guy who's going to make a lot of money in combat sports, you're going to have to get invested in this story. But that's the end of the journey, mate. That's not the beginning.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I don't care about some guy who's from Ohio and is a car mechanic and his dad used to touch him and whatever. I'm not bothered. Do you know what I mean? I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if he's fighting for a UFC title, then great. He's overcome all these things. But if he's just a shitbag, he's going to get banged out twice in the prelims. I'm not really bothered. It's good, like you say, it's good to see the fights. The only reason I've really tuned in for Tough over the past few years, like I tuned into the last one to watch Jesse Taylor because I know Jesse from when he used to fight in Cage Warriors, and the dude is a fucking party monster. I've got so much respect for him. And I've watched like my friends compete on that, and I've not watched another season of Tough since they did the UK versus Australia one.
Yeah.
I've only ever tuned in to watch my mates. Like I say, Jesse Taylor, because the dude's a fucking legend.
You know what? The one that I kind of sort of watched was the Ronda Rousey one, right? Because you don't lose on that. Okay, you get Ronda Rousey's antics, which to me were hilarious, and fine ass Miesha Tate. That's a win-win.
Yeah. Oh, she's beautiful, isn't she?
Dude. Even now she's retired. Now she's retired. She's taking all these like angled selfies and shit. You're just like, yes.
I don't even know where to start with that because I've just got this image of Dom Fry hiding behind a bin.
That'd be funny.
Hey, mate, Dom Fry gets what Dom Fry wants.
Dom Fry,
Don't cross Dom Fry. Don't cross Dom Fry.
Respect Dom Fry.
Respect the Tash, brother. Respect the Tash.
Oh, man.
The fact is, though, I would quite happily put money on the fact that I genuinely believe that Dom Fry might have got a little bit of cupcake on that.
Mate, he smashed the back doors off that. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Who's her boyfriend? What's he called? Brian?
They split, apparently.
Well, yeah. You know why they split as well? He heard that Dom Fry was interested and he fucked off.
He was like,
I don't want that business.
Caraway was like, what brand condom would you like, Mr. Fry? He's like, I don't use condoms. And he just fucking went at it.
Caraway's a condom.
I'll use you as a condom.
Oh, shit. It's fucked up.
God damn.
Wipe me out, boy, and give me a Jack and Coke.
And
goddamn.
Light my cigar afterwards.
Fucking Caraway. I'm not a fan.
What do you mean afterwards? During.
Oh. Yeah, that dude's watching. He's like, make sure you get my good angle.
Better be stood with a lighter like that.
Fuck.
Fucking hell. Oh man. So we had Jesse Taylor on Cage Race years ago. It's a great story. When he won his middleweight title off Chris Fields in Dublin, and somehow managed to be more popular than Chris Fields in Dublin after the fight. The fans were all over this guy. Like, he was being mobbed for autographs. And he was like, he tried to leave the venue. Bear in mind, it's New Year's Eve, middle of Dublin. And he came out of the changing room after the show with the middleweight title over his shoulder. And he was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to a nightclub in Crumlin. And we were like, no, that's the fucking ghetto. You can't. That's a like $8,000 gold belt on your shoulder. You can't. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. So basically, me and two guys had to wrestle this belt off him. Managed to get the belt off him. He fucked off to some nightclub in Crumlin and turned up back at the hotel the next day. And we were like, okay, Jesse, your flight leaves in 4 hours. You better, get dressed and get moving and everything. And he goes, no, I canceled my flight. And we're like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, so I canceled my flight, but I don't have any money for another flight to get home. And I put a post on Facebook because I don't have any money for a hotel. And there's some dude in Dublin who's going to let me live in his house for 5 days. So could you pay for my flight to get home to California? And we were like, yeah, I suppose, yeah, why not?
Jesus Christ. No, like couch surfing, Jesus.
The dude was partying on another level. We took him. We had him in Wales once. He fought John Phillips in Wales, And after he won that fight, we took him out in Cardiff, and he climbed an entire lamppost. And you know how big UK lampposts are, right? And he got to the top and then went across the long bit and dangled off it and started doing pull-ups. We were like, I don't think our insurance covers this.
Fuck yeah, it doesn't. Fuck. That's a question. What's happening with Phillips as well? Because every time I've seen it was supposed to be like, he's going to compete in the UFC, and then it always seems to just never happen. Like, what is going on at the moment?
I will slide into your DMs.
Oh shit, son. Hashtag no dick pic. The Welsh.
Hashtag no Brendan Schaub.
Hashtag no promises.
There you go.
Oh Christ, I feel like violent. Go on. Additional to that, we were talking about earlier, Eddie. We was talking about the whole Conor fight and whatnot. Mm-hmm. What's your take on the whole Paulie thing right now?
Just take the L, Paulie. Fucking take the L, son. Go home with a little bit of fucking dignity you got left. You made yourself look like a fucking idiot now. No. From watching the video, everybody has their different take. I haven't heard anyone have the same take. I mean, I watched Luke Thomas. Luke Thomas basically said he thought it was a push down. Okay. Other people were like, no, it's definitely a knockdown. You saw the right hand landed. It was a knockdown. Fucking Brendan Schaub's all over Conor McGregor's balls going, it was a knockdown. It was a knockdown, freaking out the whole time. I watched it. I can see parts where I don't think it was a knockdown, and I can see spots where I think it was a knockdown. It's the thing. Here's the thing. Regardless of all that shit, we're literally taking this package of Paulie and Conor and this Mayweather fight in a 20-second clip. That's what we're judging this whole thing off of, a 20-second clip. Okay, can we get past this Paulie thing and realize that maybe Conor should be focusing on Floyd Mayweather and not Paulie, and that really, off those 20 seconds, people are saying he's gonna knock Mayweather out. Really? Off 20 seconds, okay? You still couldn't tell them that after if they showed us all 12 rounds of that sparring session, we still couldn't say he's gonna beat Floyd Mayweather. You just couldn't. You know what I mean? So the whole thing's stupid. Just like Paulie needs to just shut the fuck up and move on. And then if he wants to rise up after the fight's over and see if he can get that, that money, the red panty night, whatever that everybody wants, that by fighting Conor. Which, by the way, I don't want to see any of. I don't want to see no Paulie against Conor in boxing. None of that shit. Look, if it's all end of the day, I like when fighters get paid, whether it's boxing, MMA, glory kickboxing, any kickboxers, multi-fighters. I wish made more money. You know what I mean? Because they put their lives on the line every single time. But that's not a fight I want to see at all. Just like I don't want to see Bisping GSP, and I don't want to see fucking Woodley GSP. I don't see GSP anywhere. I'll be honest with you, but. That's just unless it's Nick Diaz, because that's a fun shit talk.
Oh, here we go. So we're gonna jump on the Diaz dick then. Is that what we're gonna do right now? Yeah?
So I just say that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but regardless, like the whole thing with Paulie, man, it sucks because he's a 2-time champ, if I'm not mistaken. Awful hairdo when he was fighting, but he had the spikes of the frosted tips. I was like, dude, it's not the fucking 90s, man. Chill. Well, that was the Amir Khan fight where Amir Khan TKO'd his ass in the 11th round. I remember that fight. Paulie didn't look good. He did not look good in that fight. But it sucks. And yeah, was it a little shitty by the McGregor people? Sure. Here's the problem. When you're Paulie and you talk mad shit, and then they go, yeah, why don't you come spar? You really thought you were going to show up and spar against a guy that takes a lot of things personal and Conor? Conor didn't bring him in to spar. Conor brought him in to fuck him up. Whether or not that happened, we don't know. We just got that little clip to work off of. Yeah. But that wasn't sparring. That dude was fighting the fight.
Did you see the story that came in about Amir Khan last week?
What happened with Amir Khan?
Apparently his missus had been creeping on him.
With who?
Apparently, allegedly, Anthony Joshua.
Wait a minute. The baddest man on the planet is fucking your wife? You should be happy about that. Not happy. You should be apologetic that you didn't give her up quicker.
Yeah, apparently he's denied it, as Anthony Joshua said he likes his women BBW, so she doesn't fit that criteria.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, allegedly, Amir Khan has stated that it was Anthony Joshua that was cheating, that was the guy leading his missus astray, so to speak.
Anthony Joshua's got a chick and kids, right?
I don't know if he's got. He might have kids, but I don't think he's with the baby. I don't think.
Okay, well, let's just say he's got a chick. Well, the dude might have a chick and kids. He don't want to go out there like, yeah, I was fucking his wife. What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like,
Of course he is, because he's a rich motherfucker. He can do what the fuck he wants.
oh, he can do whatever he wants, and believe me, Amir Khan's not gonna do jack shit about it. But that's kind of, I mean, that's weird. That's just a weird story. You know what I mean? Anthony Joshua, like, he can get any chick he wants. He wants to go fuck Amir Khan's wife. Get out of here with that shit.
Oh, I've come back at such a great time.
What do you think on the Khan Joshua thing then?
I thought it was hilarious.
Funny.
I thought, like, Amir Khan's tweets were just like, oh, yeah, man like Joshua gets my, what was it?
Sloppy seconds.
Sloppy seconds. And then 2 days later, he was like, oh, yeah, sorry about that, mate. I didn't mean to.
It was just the fact that Joshua put that shaggy "It Wasn't Me" video out.
Oh, that was
no.
perfect.
Yeah.
You did that? Oh, I'm still looking that up.
Yeah, like,
That's awesome.
I think that, you know what all this does is make, you know what, I've never been an Amir Khan fan. I always thought
No, I mean, neither.
he was overhyped. He's one of those boxers that I never bought into, even though he were British and whatnot. We have a tendency over here to kind of, with any fighter that's kind of getting a little bit of steam, we kind of get behind it. We're very kind of tribal in that sense. But he was the one guy who, like, and you know what? And people, before they even tried to throw the race thing in there, I was a big Prince Nassim fan. I met him as well, Prince Nassim, when I was a kid. So, like, it's not even one of those things. I thought Amir Khan was trash, and I just thought he was always going to get lit up on the big stage.
My best mate's nan used to be Prince Nassim's cleaner. bit of trivia for you there. Very important in the fight game.
Connects, mate. Connects.
Yeah, he actually bought her one year. Like he bought like a big Mercedes or something for Christmas.
Yeah, I thought you bought her. Then I was really concerned.
No, not like that. No, he bought like a big, I think it's like a Mercedes or some ridiculous car. And she was like, "Oh, I live in like centre of Sheffield. Can't really afford to run a big Mercedes." And then he took it away and bought her a Mini or something. But apparently a really nice guy.
Bro, I'd have took the car, traded it in, took the cash, and got myself a little Ford Fiesta and been like, "Let's go."
Prince Nas, what a legend.
Prince Nassim was awesome. The only problem is when I met him, he was in the transcendent moment of being Prince Nassim, one of the best boxers in the world at the time, to Fat Nassim. So
wasn't that the guy that went in dancing all the way to the ring and then got knocked the fuck out?
Eventually.
Right, but that's the guy.
It's not the guy in the video that you're thinking of. It's,
the guy who was dancing all the way through and then he gets literally chinned.
That's not Nassim, though.
Yeah, that's not Prince Nassim, though. But
never mind.
he used to go down there dancing wearing the leopard print he used to wear.
Yeah, leopard print, yeah. And he used to wear like the shredded skirt thing, didn't he?
Yeah. He was a bad motherfucker, though.
Yeah, he was fucking legit, mate.
He used to predict his rounds, too.
Yeah.
He did the whole.
I remember seeing this video where the dude's like dancing all the way to the fucking ring. He gets in this dude's face for a second and then gets knocked the fuck out. I'm like,
that's
bitch.
A different dude. Yeah, that's a different dude.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nassim was one of those guys that looked like he was going to be one of those top guys for a long time, and then like fighters do, the fame and the money kind of gets in the way a little bit, and then you take your test too lightly and you get smashed the fuck out of.
Yeah, real quick, how you were talking when I came on, you were talking about how there's been like basically no UFC, no big huge shows, right?
Big events, yeah.
This whole month, right. What have you guys done with your time? No joke. No, I'm serious. Like
I just sit and cry at home.
No, but I mean, like, people have been like tweeting me like two, three times a day. I get some tweet from somebody else. It's like, bro, what do you talk about on your show? Like now that there's like no MMA for like until after Mayweather and McGregor, and I'm like, Mayweather McGregor and all the dumbass shit around it. I'm like, what is anybody talking about anything else? No.
I've been taking the opportunity to write about stuff that's not MMA for a change, which I've been really enjoying. So I've been writing about. I did jury service last year, so I've done a couple of articles about that for my blog that are going to come out soon. and I've been writing some stuff about Grand Theft Auto, and I've been writing some stuff about comic books, which is getting published soon. So that's how I've been filling my time. But I kind of like, I'm always like, oh yeah, it'd be great to have a break from MMA. And then when it actually happens, I'm like, oh, I need it back.
Yeah, no, by August 26th, I'm gonna be like ready to fucking see a fight. We'll watch, McGregor Mayweather, and then we'll get that Fight Pass card out of the way, and then that UFC 215, huh?
The annoying thing is, well, here in England, there's not even any domestic MMA at the moment because it's the school holidays.
I know.
So all the domestic shows just stop because all the fighters obviously want to like go on holiday with their kids and that. So no one was training. Like you've got Polaris next weekend, haven't you? Like the grappling show. But that's not real fighting. So
hater. It's okay, dude. It's all right. It's not real if you pull guard. Otherwise, you're fine.
Oh wow!
I'm totally kidding.
Hey, no kidding. Hey, no joke. Last night I was at Jits, and we got done with drilling and shit, and we were doing open mat stuff, and a fucking heavyweight pulled guard on me, and I literally
different, innit?
No, it was awful because I break up and I get up and I'm like, nah, bitch, get the fuck out. We're not doing this pull guard shit. What are we talking about? We're 215 pounds each. You can't pull guard.
Yeah, but you're saying that.
I'm like, are you sure he pulled guard or did he just sit down?
I feel like he just sat down and pulled on my gi. He like broke posture with his fat ass all the way down. I was like, what the fuck? and then he like wrapped. He like half guarded. Like he tried to corner guard. It was like an awkward guard, so I passed it real quick. But still, fucking hey, dude.
You say this thing like I'm a 215 pounder. I'm like 155, if that.
I know. I'm just fucking with you, dude. I just think it's funny that you pull guard. That's
Bro.
it. Train takedowns.
I'm not. There's no such
thing. I'm kidding.
Down in England.
I know.
Sprawl and brawl.
There you go.
No, well, the Polaris card's pretty good though. Hey.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
guys on that. Like even the undercard, you've got like Masaka Seminari on the undercard. That's sick.
I was going to say there's Brad Pickett on there. There's Dylan Dennis on there. There's Gary Tonin.
Gary Tonin's on there.
Yeah, is Gordon Ryan on there?
No, I don't believe he is because if I remember correctly, he's doing something in the States in the next week.
Yeah,
Daniel Strauss is on there, isn't he?
I'm trying
the Raspberry Ape.
Yeah, he is. Here he is.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is? I saw a post with.
So I know Josh Palmer's doing the commentary for it. He's coming back from the States to do the commentary, and he's Cage Warriors have got him back as well. So Josh is going to be back doing Cage Warriors with me, and I think he's doing one in September, 2 in October, and then 1 in November as well. So that's going to be good fun. I love commentating with Josh.
Gordon Ryan's going to be competing in Finland for the ADCC. The 88 kilograms. So that's what he's going to be doing.
Real quick question, and I'm not insinuating anything. And I just can't remember the answer. And I'm pretty sure I know some places, like, not as far as amateur, but if pro jiu-jitsu, do they drug test?
I don't think they do. No.
No? Just wondering.
Yeah, because
they do. Right now. Do. If you don't have any drugs in your system, you fail.
Oh, yeah. You know what's funny? I've rolled stoned, and they're saying like everything slows down and everything. No, fuck no! I got choked out so fast. It was fucking awful. Apparently when I get high, I slow down and then I just stare. What's up, dude?
No, I just sent him the picture that I think you're allegedly talking about. Why you asked about the drug testing.
You said it.
I don't think. I don't know. I know that he's been trying to bulk up, so I don't know. But
all I know is, for example, Gordon Ryan. All right, you gotta send it to me. Send it to me.
My goodness.
Make sure we got the same guy.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan has changed his body dramatically. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, dramatically.
Dramatically.
But he was one of the guys who was on about competing in MMA, though, and actually taking it legit seriously because he's young enough to train in striking and whatnot. Because I know that Gary Tonin was, but from what I've heard, Gary Tonin's striking is suspect.
Gary Tonin is, dude. Most jiu-jitsu guys striking, look, you and I talk about this all the time. Unless you've been training striking for a very long time, like, it's gonna be hard to get into MMA and even have serviceable striking right away. It takes years to develop.
Look at Hodgie Gracie, man. He spanked all over the place.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And who else does that shit? Fucking Damian Maia's hands were dog shit when he first came in. And then he tried. Then he got decent. Thought he was a striker. Got fucked up, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. Fuck this shit. I'm not gonna finish." Like, you know what I mean? By the way, like when you guys were watching Maya Woodley, like I felt awful for Maya.
Yeah.
Because every time he shot, I was like, "You're not gonna take him down. You're just not gonna take him down."
I still put a lot of weight into the fact that that swelling of the eye from so early on. That changes the game plan, because you know when you're training and you're in camp learning and working on certain techniques and whatnot, the one thing that you don't practice is, you know, putting a fucking patch over one of your eyes to go, well, if this happens, I'll have one eye. So you don't do that. And if you do, well, you're an idiot, because you're going to probably get chinned whilst training.
Well, it's your depth perception as well. If you can't see properly out of one eye, then you can't judge your distance on your strikes or your takedowns.
Exactly.
So, if, Maya, for example, you think, well, he's going to either be trying to step in to get the body lock or step in for a single leg. How's he going to do that if he can't judge depth? How's he going to fight the hands if he can't judge depth? That's difficult, man.
The scary thing is, though, is and I mean this sincerely, Damian Maia could win his next 2-3 fights in very quick fashion, not take any damage, and he could be right in there for a title contender, and he won't get it due to this fight.
Yeah.
Or do
he beat there, man. Like, I think he beats Robbie Lawler. I really think he does. I think he takes Robbie
Maia?
Lawler. Yeah.
Yeah.
If he gets him down.
I think he takes Robbie Lawler down, takes him out, no problem.
And there's a lot of guys. I think that the only fight
was slowing down
again was Masvidal. I think Masvidal Maia again would be very interesting, considering what I thought, because it was very close in a sense. Was that first fight?
Yeah. And it was intriguing. It was intriguing. Definitely, like if it gets to that title level again, it could be decent to watch.
The other Masvidal versus Robbie. That's the fight I need to see.
Yeah.
Masvidal. Who?
Masvidal Robbie.
Yeah, I like that fight. I mean, isn't that what they're talking about? That fight next? I
don't know, because Wonder Boy's in the mix, isn't there?
Oh, fuck that guy.
In the mix of what?
Honestly, mate, my first martial art was karate, and even I say fuck that guy. I can't be arsed. There's nothing for me. Violent Bob all day. I love fucking Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, Robbie Lawler's the
highest. He's the higher ranked Sage Northcutt for me is Wonder Boy.
Dude, how excited were you when Robbie Lawler just fucking blitzed Donald Cerrone in the first round?
Lost my shit.
I was like, holy shit, we're freaking the fuck out in my living room. Like, oh, he's gonna do it. And when he didn't do it, I was like, oh, he's so fucked.
His fight against Rory McDonald and his fight against Carlos Condit, that is just the most beautiful violence I've ever seen.
Who did you have in that
round? Real quick, into that fourth round. In the Rory Lawler fight, when they're standing facing each other, dude, I knew right away. I was like, that is iconic as fuck. And then there's these guys are called MMA History Today or something like that on Twitter. They make these posters. They made that one. I fucking bought it. I was like, cool, shit, it's fucking sick. But dude, they're just staring at each other. Fucking, I think it was Big John telling them to go back to the corners. They're like, no, fuck no. Yeah. I'm right here, bitch. What you want to do?
They just didn't move. That was fucking
bleeding down the face. Everywhere. You could. That right there, it was like an MMA fan's dream.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. Struggle, conflict. This guy's fucked up. This guy's fucked up too. But no one's backing down. Last one, like literally last man standing type of shit. You're like, ooh, goddamn, that was crazy.
It was
like one of my favorite fights ever.
It's one of those few moments like, there's that great picture of Sakuraba doing the flying stomp on Gracie.
Yeah.
It's up there with that, man. It was fucking legit. Those two guys just wanted to harm each other. That was insane. And like, there's no good pictures of it really, but I don't even remember what round it was, but there was a couple of rounds in that Condit fight where like Condit was just tapping away at him and Lawler was just like, just fucking going savage, man. It was beautiful stuff.
Yeah, so crazy.
That to me is like the kind of the purest form of fighting. It's like, Condit's like such a strict Muay Thai guy. Lawler's just a power puncher, and they were just going for it, balls to the fucking wall.
Question for you, Brad. When I don't know if you heard DC talking, and he was been recently stated that he feels that he'll come back and compete next year, or he'll do the commentary and whatnot and the media kind of stuff for the rest of this year. He'll come back next year and compete, and he thinks that he'll fight John Jones again. What's your thoughts on the whole DC saga that's kind of going on after the John Jones fight?
It's tough, man. I wrote something on it, which is on my Twitter, I think, and you probably find it on MMA Oddsbreaker. So I did my kind of breakdown on it after the fight. But yeah, it's a weird one. Like, part of me thinks that, I mean, for me, the biggest story coming out of that fight weekend was that DC lost rather than John Jones had come back and won. Like, there was more people talking about, oh, DC got fucked up and he talked so much shit and everything. But, it kind of goes back to that thing that I was talking about before about, like with McGregor, that DC is one of those guys who's played both sides really well. There was people tuning in to watch him win and people tuning in to watch him lose. And I think he'd been, for years, he's been very, very careful about saying certain things, and he's said certain things at certain times, and he's built that persona for himself. He's built that out of the cage persona to the point where, he's now the UFC's lead analyst on Fox. And, people will tune in because, hey, it's DC on Fox, or what the fuck's this crazy guy going to say next? And they'll be on social media reacting to what he says, like, oh yeah, I agree with DC. He's a legit guy. He's a former champ. Or they'll be saying, oh, fuck this guy. This guy's full of shit. He lost to John Jones twice. What does he know? And he's built that kind of love him, hate him persona. And it's made him a lot of money. And I think, there was a lot of people saying, well, people were posting tweets about him crying and people were putting articles about him crying. Well, you know what? He kind of built that atmosphere around him. He'd made a lot of people hate him. Just as many people loved him, people hated him. So what are they supposed to do when he loses? Here's a guy who's gone out there, and let's not get it wrong. John Jones is a fucking dickhead. He's infinitely unlikable. He's done some abhorrent things. He's not a particularly great sportsman, and he's not a great role model for kids or anyone watching UFC. But Cormier has put the boot in many, many times. And if we're going to treat John Jones as a human, and he's on the face of it saying, I'm trying to get better, Cormier has gone in there and put the boot in and said, the guy's a scumbag, the guy's this, the guy's that, he's done whatever. And he's really gone in hard on John Jones. Well, of course, John Jones fans are going to take the piss out of him when he loses and then starts crying twice. Do you know what I mean? Like, Daniel Cormier tested his skills against John Jones and he wasn't good enough twice, and he cried twice. Of course, people are going to take the piss out of him. And it's not cool, but that's the fight game, man. It's a money game. When people are paying money to watch you win, people are paying money to watch you lose. And he has earned his money based on the fact that he's good at both those things. He's got a lot of people wanting him to win and a lot of people wanting him to lose. So he's got no complaints really in terms of people taking the piss out of him.
I mean, he took $1 million check home, dude. I wouldn't be mad either. I'd be upset that I lost. But here's the thing about DC, though, is that he can't. Okay, before he fought John Jones, even before that, people pretty much like the guy because he's a stand-up guy. He's a good dude, right? Nice guy and everything. Everyone after he lost to John Jones, and after he won he beat AJ for the belt. That's when everyone started calling him an asshole and a bully. Like before that, I had never heard those words associated with DC ever. But then all of a sudden he's a bully. He's an asshole. Fuck this guy. He fucking this and this and this. But everyone used the word bully, and I don't understand where that came from. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't get where that came from at all.
I mean, we don't really have like the kind of like frat house mentality here in England because we don't have frat houses. And I think I speak to a lot of my my American friends or people who've gone to school in America, and they're kind of like big fans of DC because it's the kind of humor that they're used to. They're kind of used to the ribbing and the frat house mentality, whereas we're not. And I think we kind of see, when there's American guys kind of taking the piss out of other guys, we see it as a bit arrogant. And I think American people probably see the same thing with us. Like when you see Bisping taking the piss out, saying, "Oh, who's this fucking British asshole?" kind of thing. It's probably quite a cultural difference as well. But it quite surprised me to see the number of people in America booing DC. I was quite surprised about that.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And the funny thing is, because I'm originally from Mexico, and I had that culture when I came over. You know, when I immigrated to the U.S., it was like a culture shock, right? And it was really weird how literally I'm in like 4th grade walking around like, wow, these kids are soft as fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like any little thing, they got to go to the teacher and they're gonna get a little, they got a kiss on their knee because they got a boo boo and bullshit like that. You know what I mean? It was just weird. So I have this weird like twisted culture, I almost call it, where it's like I have the best and the worst of both, and it's really crazy, right? But when I see the thing about DC, I'm just like, it's like when you watch McGregor, Irish. All Irish. There is probably not one Irish man or woman, Irish man or woman that is against Conor McGregor. Not one. Okay, he comes over here and they're doing the Olay, all that stuff, and there's only one Conor McGregor and everything. He fights Chad Mendes, who's an American. Now I don't know if I don't know how much you guys see it on TV over there, but here, dude, the American flag is constantly on TV. Constantly. It's to the point where it's a commercial tool. Okay. Yeah. So then you get Chad Mendes walking into the cage with an American flag on his back, and no one's chanting USA. No one's chanting, USA wrestling. No one's chanting any of that. And I'm not saying it's because the numbers were not. It probably the numbers were different as far as like how many fans or who was there, right? But take it out of that fight. Chad Mendes against somebody else. They're not chanting USA.
But Ronda Rousey went over to Brazil and she was getting cheered more than Becca O'Hare.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really weird. It isn't that we support our own, Americans against anybody else. It's we support winners.
But don't you think though with Conor it's a slightly bit different though, considering the mass Irish kind of immigration that went over to there. The same with the Italians. Like there's a big market of. Like the same way you'd say with like South Americans and North Americans coming to the United States, the same way you'd say with Irish moving over there as well. So it's embedded within the community. Like you've said many times, everybody's got a bit of Irish in them. It seems in the States. There's a quarter. 16.
With Conor's like when he fought in Boston, there was like 3,000-4,000 Irish went over to that fight. It's actually a really interesting economic thing going on in Ireland at the moment because the credit unions. Which we don't really have in England. I don't know if they have them in the US, but it's basically like kind of a credit union, so like a bank where you can get a credit card or loan type thing from. You can basically just borrow money off them and pay back over the amount of time. It's kind of like we have building societies in the UK, Ash. But they essentially maybe 2 years ago, they stopped dishing money out because there was Irish people taking money from the credit unions to go to the US to watch McGregor fights, and then they just kind of had to cut people off because they were like, well, hang on, you've taken like $2,000 to go and see him in Boston, and you've taken $4,000 to go and see him in Vegas. You earn $12,000 a year. Now you're fucked. You're cut off. And the credit unions in Ireland actually had to stop lending money to people because there was so many people who'd taken thousands and thousands of euros out to go and watch him. It's crazy. Right, Ireland's a small country. Like we forget sometimes how small it is.
That's the impressive thing. It's how loyal they are. They will fucking take out loans they have no business taking out to go see this guy. That being said, at some point that shit runs out, just like you said. I just wonder when.
Well, yeah, it's done now, pretty much. Ireland is skint.
Question for you both. We were talking about John Jones, and I want a quick fire starting with you, Brad, and just name the person, and then you, Eddie. Who's the person right now that we have in MMA that can beat John Jones? Brad, go first, then Eddie, go.
Steve Miocic.
Gus.
Ooh. I like how both of you went for different weight categories as well.
And I'm not even on any team here. I just think Gus has what it takes. I think Gus showed he had the tools.
I think Gus already beat him.
That's what I thought. I thought he beat him.
Really?
Dude, no joke. I thought he beat DC and Houston.
Wow. I thought he beat DC. Yeah, I didn't think he beat John Jones though.
I thought he beat Jones.
I thought he beat Jones, man, and the very, very slightly. Like that fight, could have gone either way, of course, and it went the way it went, whatever. But I legit thought at the end of that fight, before they even read the cards out, I was like, ooh, Gus took that shit. If it wasn't for that fucking elbow, I think the judges would have been like, oh, Gus.
I still wouldn't be mad if it went either way, but it's one of those ones that every single time I've watched it back, I still score it for Gus.
Yeah.
I'm not a judge, but I still.
Yeah. The Stipe shout.
Yeah, I think Miocic beats him. I think Miocic is just too fucking straightforward for him. I think that's what's going to take to beat Gus, to beat John Jones. Sorry, a guy who is just so fucking good at the fundamentals that all the flashy shit doesn't matter.
Right, he's a guy that doesn't overhype himself at all, or even hype himself up. What did he say after the fight? His last fight, Ash, he was like, "Yeah, I got a kitchen remodel to go do.
Yeah, I've got to refit a kitchen. Yeah,
you got to refit a kitchen, dude." I was like, "That's the guy everybody wants to be," and it's weird that he's not one of the more he's not the most popular guy other than Jones and Conor. You know what I mean? In the UFC, as far as the champion goes, you think he'd be super popular with, especially when, I don't know about over there, but in the US, actually, no, it should be over there right now. There's it's a huge blue collar worker, workers,
do you think
movement.
Do you think if he had more of a sort of, an American name, he might be a bit more popular?
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Doesn't, obviously he's born American, but, I think that might be a thing.
I think so too. I know. I think I'm with you on that one. There's a lot of, and I think it's everywhere as far as the world goes, but especially in American society, I've always grown up really fascinated with how much value people put on superficial stuff. Right? It's Stipe, or you rather pick fucking Ryan over Stipe, or shit like that. This guy's got that car. I was watching this video on YouTube, and it was this dude sitting. He was literally sitting on a Honda, like a Honda Civic, an old ass car, right? And he's trying to pick up a girl. He's like, no, I gotta go. No, it's okay. She pulls him off, right? Another guy comes, gets in the Civic, drives it away. This guy walks to his actual car, a brand new Lamborghini. You know what this bitch did? This bitch ran back to oh, wait, is that your car? I mean, you know what I mean? I've grown up, seriously, I've gotten I'm super observant to shit like this, especially. Because it's just that can't be human nature. That's something different. That's something kind of disgusting. It's kind of gross if you think about it.
Yeah, it's huge.
Weird thing. You know what I mean? Where it's not about who the person is or the value that they have or what they bring to your life as far as relationships go. It's about what they have. Fuck out of here.
In general, though. If we look at things from the outside perspective, if everybody starts from the baseline, if Zuffa came to Brad right now and said, as he was starting, at the start of his kind of commentating career, if they turn around and said to you, right, we're going to put you on the fight nights and we're going to pay you, say, whatever you want, double, from the outset, you'd be a lot more inclined to go with them because of what you initially see in comparison of the long road. Do you know what I mean? You could potentially get to where you want to go or whatever you want to do anyway. And a lot of people like that, we always look for what can you do for me now? We don't want to play the long game. Some people do, and credit to them, but then sometimes people do it and it fucks them up and they get into a worse position because they never strove to get further forward. It all depends on, where you end up, and, that's where hindsight becomes a beautiful thing.
Right. And dominantly here is what they call it. We call it the paper chase. You're chasing the paper. You're trying to get that rich money. You're trying to get all that cash. And it's funny because that's what everyone's trying to do here. I'm sure everywhere, right? But I'm talking about this perspective of the U.S., right? It's kind of what it's about, is this paper chase, to the point where if you go out to you go out to the nightlife, you go on Friday night, you take your lady, you meet up with your friends, you go to the nightclubs, right? And we call these people 30K millionaires. So it's these people who have cars they can't afford, wearing clothes they put on credit cards. They look like they're rich, but they're gonna go and work at the gas station again the next day. I mean, it's
weekend ballers.
Weekend ballers. There you go. Weekend ballers. Right? It's really weird.
I was really lucky because I went to a private school in Holland, and I used to go to school with ambassadors' kids. And I used to go to school. It's a crazy story. I used to go to school with this girl who's the Nigerian ambassador to Holland's daughter. And she was the fucking laziest bitch I've ever seen. So we used to do cross country, right? And we used to run out of the school, and she would ring her fucking limo driver come and pick us up, take us to a bar for 20 minutes, have a few beers, and then drive us back, drop us off outside school. We'd run back in the other way. We're like, oh, coach, you want to run? We want to fucking run.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Damn.
That was legit, man.
God.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like that, like affecting that guy like Stipe, I think it's just that, I don't know. It all depends on what kind of like fan base he attracts, and I think he attracts the hardworking type of fan base. To where John Jones attracts the weekend baller. You know
People
what I
like
mean?
me.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the John Jones analysis though, because with that same thing said, he's done so many fucked up things, and obviously not to the same extent, but all of us have fucked up in a way which is, would be frowned upon by some people. So I think John Jones is more relatable, and I think that I wouldn't say he's the weekend baller kind of esque thing, the same way I wouldn't say Conor is either. I think when you look at certain people and you kind of go, these guys are the weekend baller kind of ones that attract you, they're going to be the ones that are more interested in I'm trying to think of a real guy to even really say, but maybe somebody like a Anderson Silva, like the guy who you can just get behind because he knocks people out. You know what I mean? Like a Liddell.
The sport guy who's not really got a personality outside of the sport.
He literally goes, he's the best because he knocks everybody out. Like that's the be all end all. When we look at like football over here with soccer, as you would call it. But like when you look at that, like people who support like the glory sides, I've seen kids who in the last 2 years have gone from being Chelsea fans to Man United fans to Manchester City fans in the space of like the 6-year period, and that I find crazy. And they're the same people who will be weekend balls. They're the same people who, and I can call myself a glory fan in a sense, but I'll still support them now. It's like, 20 years ago, I was watching the Chicago Bulls because it was the only thing that we could watch of basketball. Now the dog shit, I'll still support them because I chose my team. And that's a very English thing. When you choose a team, that's what you've got. And I think, weekend ballers kind of go like Chuck Liddell's the best, Anderson Silva's the best, Connor's the best. In 3 years, whoever's going to be the guy knocking everybody out, that's going to be the best in the world, and that'll always be that case. Whereas I think John Jones, at the end of the day, he was the youngest, and he was going through everybody and killing a list of names. People who are going to be Hall of Famers. Like
his run will never be topped.
Exactly.
Because I can't remember who it was, but someone put a great post on Twitter recently, and they said for John Jones's run to ever be topped or replicated, you would need another Shogun, another Machida, another Ryan Bader, another DC, and you're never going to get that many good guys in such a short space of time. It's just not going to happen. He's legitimately, for me, the best the sport's ever seen. I think Fedor's probably a close second, but there's a lot of arguments against that. I think for me at the moment, if we try and just kind of break it down to as relative as it can be, I don't think anyone's beat that many good guys as John Jones has, and I can't see anyone doing it for a long, long time.
Exactly, and that's the thing with all the fuck ups that he's done. He was still the greatest, and he was fucking up, and then he got caught with everything, and now we see his redemption story. And depending on what he does, a lot of people might call him the biggest dickhead in the world, which is 100% valid as far as the stupid shit that he's done. But we're all a sucker for a comeback. We're all a sucker for it.
We all watched that fight against DC, and we didn't all watch it to see DC win. We watched it because there's intrigue there, and. There's the redemption story, and there's also a lot of people who want to see the mighty fall. They want to see the top guy lose all the time.
Rousey.
Exactly, and it's always been like that. When the UFC bought Pride, there was some legit hardcore fans who were like, "Holy shit! Now we see Wanderlei Silva versus Chuck Liddell. Now we see Fedor versus Randy Couture. Now we see EJ Penn versus Takanori Gomi." But there was just as many guys who were like, now we see these Pride guys fucking lose because these guys are fun. And there was just as many Pride fans saying, now we see these fucking UFC guys. Like fucking Shogun versus Forrest Griffin. Like back in the day, that fight was because that was the first real big UFC versus Pride fight. And bear in mind as well, I was the fucking flag waving Pride fanboy at the time. My soul died when fucking Forrest Griffin, the ultimate fighter guy, beat Shogun Rua. He was he just won the Pride Grand Prix. He was supposed to be going up to heavyweight and fighting Fedor, and he fights fucking Forrest Griffin, Forrest fucking Gump, and gets his shit handed to him. Oh, I was in bits, man. But that's the beauty of the sport, isn't it? You know, there's so many people supporting different fights for different reasons.
I think this is why sport. Just because there's no way to predict it. No matter what you do, whether it be MMA math, statistically looking at everything from strikes and takedown defense, you can crunch every number, you can break down every fight, you can turn around and go, this guy does this when he throws this, and you can break down everything. You know, there's some amazing analysts that are in our sport right now. But still, no matter what you think, the great thing about this sport is its purity and its rawness. That it's the closest thing that you will have to a legitimate fight, apart from the 12-6 elbow. But literally everything else, you know, it's the most rawest form. And you know, in any fight, you know, the biggest guy in the world can get knocked out by the little guy. I forget the name of the gentleman who fought a few weeks ago, a few months ago now, and he fought on, I believe, a fight night, and he had to fight heavyweight, even though he was a 205er, and he came in at a light heavyweight weight. I think it was like 2. And he actually knocked out the guy who was the heavyweight. And the only reason he did it is because it was the only fight he could get. He was nowhere near what he should have been. He even lied about his weight, but he still managed to do it.
If you look at the biggest odds upsets, you had Sokoji knocked out Little Nogueira and Ricardo Arona in Pride, and he was like plus 800 or something at the bookmakers. Like Sakuraba versus Conan Silveira back in the day. Sakuraba was like 174 pounds and Conan was like 220, 230.
He looked bigger than that. Fuck.
Yeah. Fedor getting triangle choked by Verdum. Junior Dos Santos, when no one knew who he was, uppercutting Fabricio Verdum and putting his lights out, man. It's one of those sports that changes like that, and that's the best thing about it.
I'm trying to find. There was an article that wasn't too long ago, and it was about the biggest bookmaker upsets in MMA history. And I've got a feeling the biggest one that was an upset, if I might be wrong, but I think it was the TJ Dillashaw, Renan Barao. I'm sure that was the one that was, as far as bookmaker odds, that was actually the biggest upset that there was.
It's got to be up there. Either that or Rousey versus Holm. That must have been up there as well.
That's got to be up there too.
Apparently, the odds got cut on that because I remember putting money on Holly Holmes the night of the weigh-ins where the whole tussle occurred.
I think good point.
It went from something from like a 16 or 16 or 18 to 1, and it went down to like a 12 or 10, and I ended up getting more money for her getting knocked out. So I actually went with the knockout. I didn't want Rousey to lose, but I just kind of had a feeling it was going to occur.
My little brother put a few £100 on Bisping by knockout of a Luke Rockhold.
I'd put money on that.
Holy shit!
Cleaned up. He's a Bisping nut hugger. Yeah. And I was like, "Don't do it, man. Don't put your money there." And he was like, "No, I got a feeling." I was like, "You're a dickhead."
Yeah, me and my mate actually put like a small amount of money because we like to put like in, as the fights are happening, as they're about to start and stuff like that. Put a bit of money. Put a little excitement into it, especially if it's not a fight that we actually really care about. But me and my friend, we were the only one because all of his other friends, they were too sleepy and they ended up going home and stuff like that. They were just not willing to just stay up and go for it. And then obviously when Bisping, knocked out Rockhold, that was one of in my, I don't know. There's been a lot of moments in MMA that I've been ecstatic about, but I think that's one of those moments where I'd probably put it in my like top 2 or 3 of like greatest moments in MMA for me.
And that came just after the Dan Henderson. Was it Dan Henderson? Who did he fight?
It was
Shogun.
No.
No, was it? That wasn't Romero, was it?
No,
the Cuban guy.
Yeah,
Romero. Jacare? No. Oh, fuck, what's his name?
The guy who did judo.
Bellator champ. Oh my fucking god.
Jesus Christ, everybody shout.
Lombard? No. Lombard? No.
Yeah, Hector Lombard.
Lombard?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he knocked him out with the back elbow.
Fucked him up.
And he corpsed him, didn't he? With that back elbow.
Bad. That was bad.
That was
I remember that now.
Card.
Fuck.
That was a sick card.
Fuck yeah, dude. I thought Lombard was gonna win that shit.
Well, he was pinging him all over. that was after a Cage Warriors card in Newport. We were all back in the hotel in Cardiff, absolutely smashed out of our heads. We're like, we're gonna go to bed now, and then fucking Lombard got slept. And we were like, no, let's stay up just on the off chance something crazy happens. And then fucking Bisping wins.
That was amazing.
That's the thing though about placing bets. When I watched Bisping did what he normally does in a walkout, confident, ready to go. Just trying to waiting for someone to tell him to go. When I saw Rocco walk into the cage with this, like, I can't believe they're bothering me to do this shit. Like a fucking child that just got told, hey, your dinner's ready and you don't want to eat it. You want a McDonald's, you got homemade cooking. That's that fucking attitude that he had walking into the cage. Seriously, when I saw his demeanor, I was like, oh shit, he's going to get caught. And everyone that I was watching the fight was like, fuck no, dude, Bisping's got no chance. And I'm like, do you see Rocco looking ready? Because I fucking don't. And Bisping's over here ready to get at him. So when he knocked him out, I fell over laughing. Because I was like, holy shit, I called it. I fucking knew it. So then fast forward to 214, Jimmy Manuwa did the same shit. He did the exact same shit. He gets knocked out. All right. I was just saying, like, you can fucking tell. So right, those are the two moments in my history of watching MMA where I wanted to make bets immediately. I was like, fuck, I want to make a bet right now.
What's the biggest, start with you, Brad, what's the biggest prediction that you've made that kind of went against the grain or seemed a little bit like it was a bit from left field that you made and came true?
Oh, man, that's a tough question. I'm struggling to remember. I bet a grand on Danny Roberts to win his first UFC fight, and I think he was only a very slight favourite. And he won me some money. Yeah, I was really drunk at the time. That's not.
Jesus Christ!
I was like, I'm gonna put a few quid on him because I know the guy and I like him and everything.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, Danny's a fucking dude, man. I love Danny.
Good lad.
And I had a few whiskeys, and I had a few more whiskeys, and then I'd gone to bed, and I got up, and I was like, no, I'm gonna watch his fight, and I was like, I got up like half an hour early by mistake, and I was like, I've had about 8 whiskeys now. I probably should put some money on this fight. And I was like, I put like 20 quid on, and I was like, oh, but what if I put 50? What if I put 100? What if I put 2? I was like, I'm sure he's going to win. I just kept typing more money, and in the end, I was like, fuck. I put a grand on and won I think I won £1,800.
Which fight was that?
His first UFC fight against that wrestler. Right.
I was thinking then because I was trying to remember which was his first fight because I was like, his first fight wasn't the one that I was thinking. I thought his first fight was the 204 one, but I was...
No. I can't remember the dude's name, but the dude he fought was like 36, and he was a Division 2 wrestler with bad striking. And I thought, well, Danny will just tap him. Because obviously everyone thinks Danny's just a boxer, but he's actually a legit... I thought, so Danny's going to light him up. He'll get taken down when he doesn't like the striking, and he'll like guillotine or triangle him, and then he triangled him in the first round. So I was like... I'll tell you what, mate, my arsehole was flying in and out.
We're at pokering, bro. We're at pokering.
Oh, mate, it was going down for a drink. It was
fucking, oh, man. You know what's funny? And it's not because I knew any better. It's not because my analysis is on point. It's not because of any logical reason. Ash already knows what I'm going to say. I fucking picked Nate Diaz at UFC 196. I picked him. As soon as he announced it, like the fight game, I was like, "Oh, your RDA's out due to a foot injury," and I was like, "Who they get?" They go, "Nate Diaz," and I'm like, "Nate, how submission?" And what fucking happened? I was like, "Bitch, what up, dude?" I was watching that fight, surrounded by Conor fans, like strictly Conor fans, right? A lot of casuals, but pretty much Conor fans. I am losing my fucking mind when he rocks Conor. As soon as he rocked Conor, I was like, "Conor's never been rocked. Get his ass." And Nate's pressuring him. I'm like, this fight's over. My friends are like, there's no way. No, it's fine. Conor will recover. When he brings him down, gets on top of him, and gets the arm around his neck, and then punches his head in place. I was like, that's it. That's fucking
perfect, wasn't it? Absolutely perfect.
It was beautiful.
I was like, and again, I didn't pick Nate because I for any logical reason other than I'm a Nate Diaz fan. I'm a Diaz brother fan. I make no buts about it. I'm upfront with this shit.
How can you not be? How can you not be, man?
Because they never fucking fight.
True.
Again, we were just talking about too many UFC cards, bro. All right, you gotta be looking forward to a Diaz fight. You got to
get stuff.
I've been looking forward to Nick's fight for about 4 years now.
Yeah, Nick's just chilling, smoking weed, getting paid to make appearances and talk to drunk girls.
And standing next to fucking big statues of bulls, apparently.
Oh, he's in I think he's in New York. That was Wall Street.
I don't know. He stood next to a bull. I was like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
going on?
that's on that fucking Satan's butthole Wall Street. That is, motherfuckers.
Well, if someone would pay me to do that, I'd take the money. I'll be honest.
I'm saying so, but still, like that's the one. That's the one where I picked it. I made it. I told everybody. I didn't give a fuck. And when it happened, I was like, God damn it, that's right. And then he goes, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. And I'm like, oh shit, like, fuck yeah, dude. I was so happy. But,
I think my brother put money on that fight as well. Actually, I'm sure he wants a few for that. He's like a fucking you've seen Rain Man. You've seen the movie Rain Man.
Yeah.
He's like a retarded clairvoyant, my little brother.
Oh man. No,
I can talk shit now. The dude's like fucking 280 pounds, rock solid. So if he ever sees this, I'm done. I'm finished.
Dude, what about when Cody beat Cruz?
That's the biggest one. I got it so wrong. I couldn't even fathom how wrong I got that. I did not give Cody a fucking chance.
Yeah.
And the way he beat him as well, though. He clowned him.
So crazy. Dancing on him and shit. And I was like,
that is the fact that he didn't finish him, and he could have.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing, right? He could have finished him. He was in position to finish him, and he didn't. He was like, I'm going to embarrass you, and I'm going to take your belt. And it's like, whew.
You know, the thing is, too, we won't remember that in years to come. If you'd have finished him, that would have been the iconic moment.
Oh, sure.
So whenever we talk about this fight, we'll go, yo, he absolutely smashed into pieces. You know, it was incredible. He put on a great display. That's all we'll say. Instead of turning around and going, he absolutely destroyed and just killed and knocked out one of the greatest of all time. That's the big thing.
I think as well, like, if people are kind of watching this and saying, well, Dominic Cruz, was he really that good? Like, if you go back and watch Dominic Cruz's fights in WEC, and the level of guys that he beat and the ease in which he beat them, he was so good, and, you watch his fights against Uriah Faber, who is one of the best little guys of all time. His fight with, he beat Mizugaki quite easily, didn't he? But who else did he beat? He was really good. He fought Joe, what's he called? Joby Wankanobi. What's his... Get the guy's name. That was his nickname, wasn't it? Joby Wankanobi. Joe Benavidez. Joe Benavidez. Yeah, Benavidez. Joby Wankanobi. That's what he was called.
I thought he called him Jiu-Jitsu. That's fucking funny shit. Oh man.
Joby Wankanobi, come on.
I feel you. I hear you. Believe me. Your favorite TJ Dillashaw. He beat Demetrius Johnson. That was
exactly the last
135. Yeah. So, would you guys want to see that fight again?
No.
Yeah.
Any chance?
No.
Yeah. No, versus Johnson.
No.
Yeah, Johnson Cruz.
Yeah, I think DJ really needs to move up. I mean, this Ray Borg fight's neither here nor there for me. I think he needs to move up now. I don't think there's anyone at flyweight that's got any time for him. I think he has to fight someone like Dillashaw or Cruz, or
unless it's Cody versus DJ, it just doesn't matter. If I'm being completely, taking myself out of the fight and what fights I'd like to see, DJ be in, if we're gonna make anything for DJ as far as like this is gonna, put him in a position to kind of be looked at in a great way, if he can get the win, obviously, it's against Cody. That's the only fight, a champion versus champion, and that's the only way. It's the only way now. You can't put him against TJ. It's not a super fight. You can't put him against Dominic Cruz. It's not a super fight. There's a story with Dominic Cruz. Completely agree, but the Cody thing, the title, the champions, the arguably the best in the world versus this star who just smashed it, one of the greats. There's a story there. You've got this. If Cody knocks out DJ, if they do ever fight, you're talking about somebody who's a legend killer, and he kills them in the prime. He doesn't just kill them when they're past it. Do you know what I mean? This isn't like we're looking at certain people like John Jones, who might have caught certain people at the right time. We're talking about somebody who's going after everybody who's the best that's around, and he's killing them whilst they're in a sense their prime. Because we can't even say Dominic Cruz wasn't in his prime, because he beat TJ, like he beat him.
Yeah. I think the only thing I can maybe see is if, say, Johnson beats Borg, and then they do a tough season with Mighty Mouse versus Cruz, while Garbrandt and TJ have their fight. If they put that on as the February tough season, I can maybe see it happening like that, and then the winner fights the winner of the flyweight title, the bantamweight title fight. I don't know. I'm still, there's a lot of rumors going around at the moment that the UFC is still trying to shop the flyweight division to Titan FC. And I think once Demetrius Johnson's out of that division, I don't see any reason for the UFC to keep it on, especially now that we've got these extra weight divisions that some of the athletic commissions are putting through. Yeah. So if I think the UFC would much rather promote a light welterweight division or a light middleweight division where there's so many more fighters and big name fighters they've already got than carry on with a flyweight division where they've got DJ and, let's be honest, fucking no one else.
This is a question that I wanted to kind of pose to both of you, because I don't really know how they do this, but with the same thing said, if they do implement a 165 and a 175, obviously in a sense they'd probably take out the 170 division. Would they make that a 175 division, or would they make that the 65 division, or would it be based on the champion's prerogative?
Well, at the moment, there's no recognised 175 division, so it would make sense to do £10 increments eventually. Right. But at the moment, I think it's 165. I'm not sure. We're doing 163 at FCC. Yeah. Obviously, that's just like a personal sort of thing, because we go on kilos, so I think it's 74 is 163. But at the moment, there's no 175 that would be recognised. And for the UFC, that 170 division is so iconic, I don't really think they want to change it. So I'm not sure. I think if we talk about what makes the most sense, it would be doing 165, 175, 185,
175,
195.
I'm looking at the ABC, and they've approved the additional weight classes of 165, 175, 195, and 225.
That one, 195 and 225 for me, heavyweights.
Yeah. You know. So for me, just I mean, personally, I would ditch 170, just have it as 175, 165. But it's whether the UFC would be willing to do that, because they've had Matt Hughes, they've got George St. Pierre, two of the most iconic title runs in the sport. I don't know, would they be willing to ditch it? They should. But at the moment, and bear in mind as well that there's only a couple of athletic commissions that have recognised these extra divisions yet. If the athletic commissions don't take them on board, then they're essentially useless. It's like, you know how confusing it is at the moment with the athletic commissions that have taken on the modified unified rules, and those that haven't. Every other UFC you watch has got a different set of rules. If every other UFC you watch has a different set of weight classes, and all of a sudden you can't have certain guys fighting in certain divisions on certain shows, so you need uniformity.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a super heavyweight one though yet. I'll be completely honest.
Like
there is a super heavyweight division, but there's not enough athletes for it. Like there's no 265 pound plus athletic guys, because if you're 265 pound plus and you're athletic, you're either playing in the NFL or
you're in
a
WWE?
defensive player in the NBA.
You're in
pro wrestler.
UFC has had two super heavyweight fights. I think Josh Barnett versus Sammy Schilt, and another one back in the day. I can't remember what it was. But there's not enough. If you look at like King of the Cage, for example, they've got loads of super heavyweight fights. Just fucking fat guys. That's all it is. Just fat guys.
But don't you think though then we could cut out the weight cut?
I'm not saying fat guys shouldn't fight, because I'm all for that. That's hilarious.
Weight cuts out there though. That'd stop the weight cutting. You know what I mean?
But who's cutting weight at 265? Brock Lesnar, Shane Carwin, and no other come. It's just those two guys. No, but legit, who's, especially now in the days of USADA, we're not seeing absolute beefcakes, are we? Alistair Overeem's weighing in at 255.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, he's going to do 265. Yeah, Brock Lesnar is. Shane Carwin's not going to fight again. Cain Velasquez is 240. Stefan Struve's 240, 250. Mark Hunt's 240, 230 maybe.
I think it was 240 solid.
But he's a tubby guy that way. He's not cutting down in any sense, is he? I don't, I mean, Todd Duffy's, is Todd Duffy still knocking around?
I thought he got dropped. I think he got dropped.
So who are these guys who are going to need to cut down? Who are these guys who are going to benefit from not having to cut 20 pounds to get to 265?
It'd be interesting to see somebody like fucking Francis Ngannou not cut any weight and just comes in at 265, just fucking smashing people.
But what does he come in at though? He's not 265.
I think he's like 255, 250. I think he's but he's lean, like he's leaned out.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not cutting. If he's coming at 250, he's not cutting anything. He's just getting on a good diet. I don't think he's going to be any better if he weighs 270. He'll just be slower.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he comes in and he's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to smash everybody. Like he doesn't.
I want to see a 350-pound Francis Ngannou just eating people.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is just like what we were about before, like losing 15 pounds worth of weight. Like obviously these guys are a lot more disciplined, but losing, in a core amount of time, the amount of weight you need to cut, as well as being able to be optimal when you walk into the cage, or in anything that you do in any sports, it's not easy, man. And it's just like, I just think to myself, fuck, like imagine like if Francis Ngannou was just literally cutting water weight, like how much of a ball ache that must be, just so that he's like leaned out.
No, I honestly, I think if he's coming in at anywhere around 250, I don't think he's cutting weight at all. I think the only weight he's going to lose is dieting, and that's not cutting water weight. Water weight is literally 48 to 72 hours before the fight, and he's not going to be losing that much.
I'll say this though, I would love to see, not soon, I'm going to play the long game. I'd love to see Francis Ngannou and John Jones
versus John Jones. Yeah. Yeah,
bro. Like when John Jones is like a little bit kind of like taking a back burner, and then you've got Francis Ngannou who's learned to wrestle, learned to do a bit of jiu-jitsu, and then it's like the fucking Goliath. It's like the two baddest men on the planet just fucking making a beeline for each other. That's all I want to see.
It'd be a good fight in a couple of years, I reckon. I'd like to see it.
I think John Jones wants any piece of that.
Yeah. I'd like seeing Ngannou versus. It's tough to know like who's the next kind of step up for him, because there's a load of fucking average heavyweights at the moment, and there's not really any step up guys. Like, I mean, I'm on it. Like Mark Hunt's one of my favorite fighters, but he's not that step up guy anymore because he's been stopped too many times, and he's 41, 42 at the moment. He's not really like go up a level and test yourself. I think maybe Junior Dos Santos maybe is the step up guy now.
Well, yeah. I'd like to see that Derek Lewis fight. I know Derek Lewis was playing the joke saying, like they just want to see black and black crime. But I think, in my honest opinion, I think Derek Lewis was smart, and he was like, I do not want any part of that athletic big motherfucker.
No. Yeah, he's basically me, but he works out.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, who broadcast Polaris? Or is that broadcast? That's Fight Pass, right?
It's Fight Pass.
Okay,
Yeah,
making sure.
Fight Pass.
The prelims are free on Fight Pass, so even if you don't have a subscription, you can watch the prelims, which ends with the Masakatsu Minari fight.
Yeah.
And then you've got, I think, 7 or 8 on the main cards. You've got your Brad Pickett's, your Gary Tonhams. All those are on the main card, but you need a subscription.
I'm looking at it now. Dylan Dennis, Gary Tonin. I'm picking Gary Tonin. Dan Strauss. Dan Strauss against Jake Shields is going to be legit. Yeah. But mostly because I like Jake Shields. I'm not shit talking Jake Shields. He whooped my ass 10 times in 5 seconds. But like he does a lot of stalling type of techniques,
we saw that in the last
what I don't like.
We saw him when he competed
against Dylan. Yeah. So I didn't like that at all.
He's a punch guy, isn't he? He's a punch guy.
Yeah. So Phil Harris, Brad Pitt is legit. Kyle Uno's on here. I didn't know he was on here. AJ Azagon. That dude, everyone hates AJ. You ever seen that shit?
I don't get why.
He's an asshole.
But what specifically like he does that makes,
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like when people say, oh, he's an asshole, it's like, yeah, but like everybody's an asshole to somebody.
Right, but who was it that kicked him? Literally, like Sparta kicked him off the fucking stage. It was someone. No. He was at a fight to win. They're fighting. the ref stops, times the fight or whatever. He wants to reset them. AJ turns his back to this dude, and this dude just Sparta kicks him right off the stage.
Oh yeah,
You never saw that shit? Look that up.
Asshole. And he's the asshole.
Yeah, he's the asshole. But no, but look it up. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know why they hate him. I just off his interviews and the way he's kind of an asshole. Like the way he talks is super arrogant, dude. That's probably why people don't like him. But in the jiu-jitsu, that means a lot, honestly.
Oh, I know, but come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, when you compete if you're competing in like submission underground and stuff like that, you really
Man, that's in English.
Come on.
Yo, this card's legit. I'm watching this.
For sure.
This
Card is legit. Hey, can we do an after dark and we'll all do the commentary? Like we'll do like we'll do a little fight passy-esque thing. We'll have a little Jack Daniels cider and we'll have
Jack Daniels cider, mate. That's ruined my life.
Every time you tag me in a picture, I'm like, let's go.
Every Saturday night, it's on.
Oh shit. Yeah, we can talk about that. Anyway,
I'm down for that, like 4 flat tires.
Yeah.
Right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this beautiful thing up in a bow. Just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Bain, Jiu-Jitsu Athletic Apparel. They do spats, they do rash guards, they do mugs, they do all those beautiful t-shirts, and I think they're doing some baby growths and something like I saw on Instagram as well. So you can get your kids on there young, get them a little spat.
Yeah, make your children fight.
Yes, sir. Get them in a cage. We'll make it in Russia. Nonetheless, anyway, make sure that you go onto bainstore.com. That's BAIN store.com. Use the code with the heel hook for 10% off your entire purchases. And last but not least, our other sponsor, the amazing Receptra. Receptra do hemp extract products. It's all naturally grown. It's Colorado based. Additional to that, the products themselves, I use them religiously every day. They do topicas, they do the droplets and whatnot as well, like the oil. And basically it helps with inflammation. It helps with numerous other things. I can't recommend more than to go and research CBD just in general. So regardless of whatnot, whether you use Receptra or whatnot, I personally use them because they're the best that I've used. But go and check out CBD oil and see how it can benefit you. But go and check out Receptra Naturals if you're in the States.com. And if you're in the United Kingdom /Europe, then you want to go to ReceptraGlobal.com. When you go onto there, you want to use the code word heel hook and you'll get 10% off your entire order. So I just want to give a shout out to you guys as well. And cheers for dropping in, Brad, because it's been a lot of fun. Where can they find you on social media as well?
Get me on Twitter at MMA Brad, and you can find my writing on MMAoddsbreaker.com whenever I can be asked.
Eddie, hit him up.
You can follow me at Elot31 on Twitter and at Crosswinds MMA on Twitter as well. Also, hit up crosswindsmma.com. We got a giveaway going. Just letting you know. Cool.
Is that the Madden thing?
That's the Madden thing.
I'll
tell you the story. I'll tell you why afterwards, but yeah.
Cool. Also, you can catch me on Snapchat, JustAshOfficial, and you can also find me on Twitter, Ashley Lamprey. That's ASHLEYLAMPREY. And you can obviously find all of our links in the description when this is put up. Make sure you subscribe to our iTunes or our SoundCloud. We're on. Please leave this a like, guys. Give it a share. Hope you enjoyed the show. From me, Brad, and Eddie. Peace out.